If you no longer go for a gap, you're no longer a racing driver. The words once spoken by Ayrton Senna welcome you to our broadcast. He was a man almost uniquely qualified to consider the essence of what it took to be a competitor in this great sport. In Sao Paulo, his memory endures in the artwork, the caps in the crowd, and the banners. It is a reminder that in this sport, at this track, now and then, you can do things that live forever. It is the 21st round of the Formula One World Championship. This is Formula One, and it's back in Brazil. We are ready to go racing for the 20th Grand Prix of the year in 2023, around the 2.6 miles, the 15 turns and the 42 meters of elevation that make this fantastic circuit that has been full of action, whether it be even lapping a car. It can change the outcome of the Grand Prix win. Ocon and Verstappen showing you that in 2018. Verstappen has won here just once in the Grand Prix format thanks to that moment. Fiat versus Perez, 2014. And into turn 4, which saw so much action yesterday in the sprint. Further on, and it's Schumacher and Lacey at turn 12. And sometimes if you dive down, you've got to be brave to make it work. Sometimes you respond in the next meters as you climb the hill to complete the lap. It's the soft, the medium, and the hard. The hard tyre, not really your friend today. It's the C4 and the C3 where the majority of the running is going to be on. But how many stops will the drivers in the field elect to use? Will they go for 2? Will we see a front foot move onto 3? Lots to consider in the next few moments, but let's go back to front for the grid for the 20th Grand Prix of the year, where it's Zhou Guanyu in 20th next to Logan Sargent. The Williams not having a good time with the wins around this circuit. Valtteri Bottas, two-time pole sitter here. He's 18th though, next to Daniel Ricciardo, who's looking for a run through the field. Same applies to Yuki Tsunoda, who finished a very strong 6th in the sprint yesterday. Pierre Gasly had a 2-place drop for impeding. The same applies to his teammate Esteban Ocon, and Alex Albon will be looking in his mirrors, trying to keep many behind. Then you've got Hulkenberg next to Kevin Magnussen on an all-Haas row. We break into the top 10 with Oscar Piastri looking to try and fight through, show the good race pace that we saw yesterday from McLaren. He's next to Sergio Perez. Same applies to him. He knows he's got the pace for a podium today. 2-place drop for George Russell, leaves him in 8th, and then it's Carlos Sainz P7. Then we get to Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton, both of them looking to attack the Aston Martins. Fernando Alonso in 4th. Lance Stroll's best qualifying of the season puts him 3rd on the grid. Charles Leclerc on the front row for the 3rd Grand Prix in a row. It's Max Verstappen's 11th pole position of 2023. Lewis Hamilton has won here 3 times before, but yesterday the tyre degradation for his car was dramatic. It was intense, and Mercedes will need answers. The conditions of these cars, the setup of these cars has been locked in from Friday. On Friday, Lance Stroll scoring his best qualifying result of the season. He chases his 4th career podium today from 3rd on the grid. In the commentary box, I'm Alex Jakes. Looking forward to this one. Alongside me is Jolyon Palmer. Jolyon, the first lap, it's going to be so important because if they let Max lead at the end of the first one, he's going to run and hide.
Yeah, it could well be sayonara from then on. It's going to be a chance, or it's got to be the only chance maybe for Leclerc or Stroll to see him again in this race without a safety car intervention later on. He was so good yesterday, Verstappen. His tyre degradation was superb. His management was great. We heard the communication between himself and GP on the radio as well. They know what to do, and if they have the lead, have the clean air at the start, they can dominate this one, I think. The question is going to be for Mercedes, as you said. There's been part FOMO conditions, so you can't do anything in terms of setup, really, anything big and meaningful. But the driving style is going to be interesting. Can they be a little bit more conservative? Because they went hunting on the opening lap yesterday.
It is nearly time. It is now time. 2 o'clock local time in Sao Paulo for the 50th time in Brazilian history. Formula One is racing here, counting for the World Championship. We're on to the formation lap, and everyone apart from Logan Sargent has gone for the soft tyres at the start. You can see the possible race strategies at the bottom of your picture. How long you can go is going to be very interesting. The undercut, though, Jolyon, is going to be very, very powerful. This is a short track, but it's worth a lot.
21 seconds for a pit stop, and with the degradation we saw in 24 laps yesterday, we were seeing seconds worth. That is going to be the range of undercut that you can have within 15, 20 laps. Wouldn't surprise me if it even became a 3-stopper, this one for some. The good news for the drivers is it's a little bit cooler today. and is less gusty than it has been. So that'll be a little bit nicer for the drivers in the cockpit. The cars shouldn't be sliding around anymore. It'll be better on the tyres. But still, it was a hectic 24 laps yesterday. Today, 71 laps, hopefully more of the same.
James Hinchcliffe joining us in commentary as well. Oh, I can't believe it! I can't believe it! Charles Leclerc has gone off the road on the formation lap. Absolutely extraordinary. The Ferrari driver, due to start in second place, has found the barriers, and his body language tells you all you need to know. Inexplicable.
All of that start analysis, put that in the bin. Leclerc, what has he done? He looked disconsolate in the car. He cannot believe it. That's at the exit of Ferradura, so 6 and 7, the quick right over the hill. He's got going again, but he'll have to, I mean, at the very least come in and pit for repairs on the front wing, but is the suspension even pointing the right way? Not completely sure on it. It took a while to get going. We're green again, and so at least we might get a race start even yet.
No, I lost the hydraulics. I lost the hydraulics. Why the am I so unlucky? Why the am I so unlucky?
And the car's switched off. You can hear the engine go. So that's what's happened to Leclerc. He's lost the hydraulics. The power steering's probably gone in a high-speed corner, and he's ended up in the wall.
This is the formation lap. That is what happens. Everything seizes up, spat into the wall, nothing he could do. Passenger, look, he's just warming tyres, getting into the temperature window. Everything locks up, straight to the scene of the accident. His Grand Prix over before it had even begun.
Heartbreak. Desperately unlucky. I think it's an engine. I think the engine lets go and it just is in gear and it just immediately locks those rear tyres. And so it's all gone on together. The hydraulics control so much on these Formula One cars. Gutting for Leclerc. And now there's a gaping gap then on the front of the grid alongside Verstappen. Leclerc has pulled off. He won't start this Grand Prix.
It is a clear view for Fernando Alonso directly ahead of him. It's a big opportunity as well for Lance Stroll directly behind, will be elevated. There is a gap on the front row. One of the more extraordinary formation laps you will ever see in Formula One. We are down to 19 on the grid. The demise of Charles Leclerc is over. Green flag at the back. The Sao Paulo Grand Prix is 5 lights away. Formula One goes racing in Sao Paulo once again. Good reaction time for Lando Norris. Has an opportunity to go past all of them. Big crash in the middle of the pack. I think Alex Albon is into the wall along with the Haas as well. That is real disappointment for Kevin Magnussen, who's found the barriers. We will almost certainly need a safety car immediately. It is an incredible getaway for Lando Norris, who's up to second position. Unbelievable stuff. Hamilton finds himself now in P3. The safety car is out. What a dramatic opening few moments of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. We had the Ferrari in the wall on the formation lap. We've had another car into the barrier very, very heavily at the start. Max Verstappen was always going to hold the lead off the line. Lando Norris with an unbelievable jump, and he must have been super brave down the inside to clear all those drivers. You've got the Williams in the barrier. You've got Kevin Magnussen there as well. It is a short run into the wall. And we are having one of those days in Brazil. 3 retirements in one corner of the Grand Prix. And the man who was on pole here last year will want to forget this one. One Haas out, one Williams out. Dramatic opening sequence.
They started 12th and 13th, Magnussen and Albon, and they came together, just jostling for position coming into that first corner. So disaster for Albon and heavy damage there. What a start from Norris though. He got the jump immediately, and of course with Leclerc not being there on the inside, you said Alonso had the clear view, but so did Norris. As soon as he gets the jump and sees the space on the inside, it's a nightmare stuff from Aston Martin. Stroll didn't get away at all, and Hamilton swept round him. They lost 2 places straight away, and then Norris came down the inside. There's the contact further back, and Nico Hülkenberg as well got hit by that flailing tyre coming down through the first corner. He's also now towards the back.
Let's have another look at it. James Hinchcliffe, I tried to start a conversation with you about 3 minutes ago. There's been so much drama, we weren't able to bring you in. Alex Albon heavily into the barrier. There's the Haas, and Lando Norris diving past everyone to take P2. Hinch, we go on board with Alex Albon.
So let's see here. You see the Haas right in front. Great start from Alex Albon in the Williams. He gets alongside, and then, you see the other Haas came together. It was actually Hülkenberg kind of squeezed his teammate there. That kind of led to the contact. So it was a bit of a 3-wide situation. You see that in the middle of your screen, the initial contact is actually there with Hülkenberg.
Yeah, Magnussen's actually collected then, as Albon's already lost it. There's the Alpine as well. I think it was it Gasly or Ocon that was right in the mix. I think it was Esteban Ocon started just behind Magnussen and Albon. So, and this is going to be the nice shot then. On board with Ocon. There are two colliding cars right in front of us now. On the right-hand side, Albon, and it's Magnussen that comes across, squeezes Hülkenberg towards Albon, and it's Hülkenberg and Albon that touch. Hülkenberg has pitted with damage, and Magnussen then is collected by the Williams that's then way out of control.
There's the launch for Lando Norris, car number 4, down the inside. Hamilton getting a great start, but the inside line was crucial, and that is the Williams into the barrier. We saw that very nearly happen in Japan. That day they avoided it, today they didn't, and the red flag is flying at Interlagos because it's a big clean-up.
Whack on the rear wing there of Daniel Ricciardo as well from that huge amount of rubber. The tyre straight off, and that's a rear that's it's going to be fairly weighty. The red flag has come out, so we will have a full restart when this mess is cleared up. But I thought Ricciardo might have, he's come through the pits immediately as well, and I think he might have had damage there. The tyre gives it whacks there, the rear wing of Daniel Ricciardo. For me, Hinch, that was Singapore 2017.
Yeah.
The Ferraris and Verstappen, you know.
Right. I mean, further back, luckily, so not as many cars potentially implicated there. Let's listen to Piastri's radio.
Oscar, kill the engine. The car is not safe to continue.
Oh, gutting. That's a heartbreak. I mean, he was looking forward to recovering from that qualifying issue. We saw the pace of the McLarens. We saw that start from Lando Norris, and it looks like a retirement as well from Daniel Ricciardo.
This is genuinely the most chaotic start to a race we have seen all season long. Piastri in the pits, retiring. Ricciardo in the pits, retiring. Everyone's now back in the pits because that's the procedure under the red flag. Magnussen and Albon out at turn 1. Charles Leclerc running to have a chat with the marshals. We're on lap 3, and it has been all action so far today. The race neutralised under the red flag. We'll line up and we'll go again. And I tell you what, after yesterday, when we saw Lando Norris's pace, we were thinking, it's a shame they're not 1 and 2 off the line for the Grand Prix. When we get going again, they will be. And it will be take 2 for the most 2 competitive drivers this weekend.
Oscar, that is a red flag. We're going to see if we can repair the car.
Didn't see what happened to Piastri. So Ricciardo's rear wing got clouted by that loose tyre. I wonder if Piastri somehow was collecting some debris as well there. He was only just ahead of those 2 Hasses on the grid. And it is a chance for Ricciardo or AlphaTauri to repair the Ricciardo car, and now McLaren are thinking we can get back in this race with this red flag. It depends how much time it's going to take to clear up the mess. Leclerc, that was almost a throwback from Leclerc. Looked like he was running back for a spare car in the the days of old. But that one will not be repaired, that hydraulic leak on the Ferrari.
So
Yeah,
go on,
Hitch. I was going to say, the other thing for the AlphaTauri guys, I mean, with Albon out, you know, that's the Williams that you kind of expect to score points. You want every opportunity you have as this team to get your car back on track to try to collect those valuable points in that battle. Leclerc's wondering if he can fix his car and get himself back in there right now, I think.
He's going to have to do it himself because he's a long way from the mechanics. So I think he was trying to get back to the pit lane, and he's reverted back to his own car there, stricken in the middle sector. As you said there, Hinch, you know, the Williams AlphaTauri battle is interesting. They've just lost their main protagonist with Albon. Sargent's still going in 14th. But look at Tsunoda, up 6 places. He gained as much as, or Zhou was 7 from the back, but that's a huge first lap from Yuki Tsunoda, already back to the points, and we know that car is really quick in race trim.
Okay, we are under red flag conditions on lap 3 of 71. Lando Norris will race Max Verstappen on the restart. Hamilton gaining a couple of positions. You have Alonso still in 4th. You have Stroll down 2, Russell up 2, Perez up 2, Sainz down 1, and then it gets very funny, really, if you look at the left-hand side. Ocon up 5, Tsunoda up 6, Bottas up 6, Zhou up 7. Huge gainers after this mess at turn number 1. Let's get more insight now for former race engineer joining us this weekend. Let's head it down into the paddock with Julian.
Thank you, Alex and Julian. Yeah, another red flag for this race. What an incredible start. But what's happening with the team? So let's remember, a few years ago, the red flag was not that much used. I remember that was around 2019-20 with Michael Masi. They started to reintroduce again this procedure of the red flag. I remember actually one in Mugello with Kimi when he was absolutely mad because he was back in the pit lane. We didn't have the pit lane and he was absolutely shouting on the radio, I want the tire blockade, I want the tire blockade, where is my drink? It was a complete nightmare, but that was a bit of a situation. But what's happening at the moment? So basically the team are allowed actually in the red flag to do few change. They can obviously restart the engine, check the cooling, change the flap setting again if it's necessary, and they can change the tires. So they are allowed, if they deem to change the tires, okay, we can change the strategy. Here it's a very early red flag, so I doubt they will do so. The other thing that the team are allowed to do actually is to change parts. However, there is a big but. If they change part, they cannot add weight to the car. So the parts need to be of the same weight specification than the one they remove. Actually, I remember we had a procedure in place where we were coming with a little scale, a numerical scale. Then we were calling maybe Joe Bauer from the FIA to weigh this part, making sure that the part was compliant and the same weight than before. So as you can see, teams are allowed to do some modification on the car, on the cooling as well, to repair the car as well, but it's within a certain amount of rules, basically. So they are not allowed to do absolutely everything. That's it. Back to you, Alex and Julian.
Thank you, Julian. Fantastic insight of the processes going on right now. You see the hubbub of activity down there in the pit lane. On a slightly lighter note, Charles Leclerc can't get up the hill to get back to the pits.
F1 drivers in the wild. He doesn't know how to get out of that. That's where he's running up the hill. He's doing some hill reps on foot here, a bit of training, getting some level of workout today is Charles. Hopefully, I've been in that position myself. You retire, and of course the drivers know their way around the track. As Kimi Räikkönen proved back in the day, they don't know their way off the track all that well, and sometimes you're thinking, how on earth do I find my way around the pits? It's 4.3 kilometres here. It's actually quite a long way to get back as well. So Leclerc's still trying to get back to his team, get changed and watch the rest of them take the restart when it comes. I think it's going to go down as a racing incident, isn't it, between Magnussen, his teammate, and with Albon. But of course, for K-Mag, that car had a huge impact just 7 days ago in Mexico.
Yes.
It's more contact for Haas, this time both of their cars in the wars. It's really what they didn't need. The race pace is already bad, and you'd say Magnussen was the driver coming across. It's the classic case of three drivers that you don't know necessarily. He could have maybe seen his teammate in the mirrors. You don't know that Albon's there on the outside as well, so you think Hulkenberg, you can squeeze him across. It's always a risk to start to move your line into the first corner. There's always the risk that with everyone bunched together that can happen. But racing incident, I'm fairly sure on that. But it is hefty damage for Haas, and Günther Steiner will not be chuffed with that.
So you're looking down into the McLaren garage at the car of Oscar Piastri, and you see Lando there, just straight to the console in the centre of the garage, talking to the team. There's Lance Stroll doing the same thing, and after all the build-up, you know, the green light at the end of the pit lane 50 minutes before. Let's go back to the race start.
Let's look at Piastri. So he's the second McLaren. Norris flies through. Perez cuts through to the inside of Piastri, and I have not seen. Is he going to get? Oh, there's the whack. Yeah, it's Magnussen spinning, and he just rear ends Piastri. Not huge contact, but it'll be similar damage on that rear wing to Ricciardo's AlphaTauri, who is going to get there a wallop on the tyre to the rear wing. So that's similar sort of repairs that McLaren have got to do, and AlphaTauri. Not the work of a moment to change those rear wings. The structure, it's harder to get to. The front wings are dawdle, they're quick release, but at the back it's a little bit harder. But we're still under red flag, and we don't know when we're going to restart yet, so they'll be working on that to try and get those two back in the race.
You see the engineers and the drivers talking there, and you might be thinking, well, they've only done one corner. What can you really be debriefing too much on? But remember, red flag conditions, that means another standing restart. So you have now done a proper start. It's the first time you would have done one all week with full fuel. And so you can look through your data. I mean, we saw Lance Stroll there looking over his engineer's shoulder at a computer there. Wonder if he's thinking, okay, I lost a couple positions on that start. Fernando's now ahead of me. What did I do wrong? What could I do better? and even Fernando didn't have the best start.
It was bad for both of those Aston Martins, and what a golden opportunity they had. Starting third and fourth, clear view ahead for both of them, really. Only Max Verstappen in front, and yet they just didn't get away. Stroll's reaction looked pretty terrible, but it probably didn't drop the clutch to the bite point to actually move off the line particularly quickly. Oh, Hamilton has a little jump from the right-hand side. He stops it again before the lights went out, and this is the start that takes Norris from 6th up into 2nd place. Thank you very much on the inside, and that's the position he wanted yesterday. The inside into the first corner. It's easier to hold it when you have the start. Oh no, it didn't look like he jumped there, Hamilton.
I saw a little movement. I think you may have been right there, but like you say, he got it stopped before the lights went out, but that was close. Either way, what an incredible launch from Lando Norris. I mean, that's one of those moments as a driver you can pat yourself on the back a little bit, because that was so nicely executed. 4 spots. Here now with Lance, just a little bit of a slow getaway. You hear a little bit of wheel spin there, and Hamilton completely clear before they even get to the brake zone.
Stroll was just a little high in the rev range and couldn't then feed in the power without lighting up the rear tyres. Alonso came through as well, so Stroll is the main loser then from the front. Third, which was effectively second, down to 5th position. Here's Perez, who comes very harshly across around Carlos Sainz, and he's got a Piastri just behind him, and it opens up nicely for Checo with George Russell there on the outside.
And that inside line in turn 2 just sort of gets held up a little bit there. George Russell able to then carry around the outside of 3, but then Checo must make a move here into turn 4. No DRS, just late on the brakes. Again, George just balked a little bit there by the Aston Martins. Right here is where the safety car comes out.
They were side by side, weren't they, as the safety car came out. Russell, Russell's kept the place, just.
Yes, that is the message on the restart order, that Russell will start ahead of Perez. That's the judgment call that we saw. So the graphic, which will appear, I'm sure, any moment. But it's Verstappen, Norris, Hamilton, Alonso, Stroll, Russell, Perez, Sainz, Ocon, Tsunoda, the top 10 for the restart of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. More insight now from down in the paddock with Julian.
So we are here in the paddock, so we have seen a few cars coming back into the garage under this red flag. So I explained a few minutes ago about the rules of the red flag. What is very unusual is to bring back the car into the box. So we have seen Ricciardo and Piastri, so it means 2 things. It means, 1, they judged that they could not repair the car quick enough in the fast lane, which could have probably delayed the restart procedure. And you are allowed to, if you think, for example, you need to change the floor or something really big that you need to bring back to your facility to have the air jack, to have all the tools necessary for that, then yes, you are allowed to go back to the garage. We've seen a minute ago Tim Goss, the technical director of the FIA, discussing with the McLaren team, and that's very important, clearly. The key points there is that you need to ask permission. As I said before, you can change parts, you're allowed to do so, but they need to be of the same spec. So what happened? It happened to us already a couple of times in the past, is that you don't have time to call the FIA and you need to change the part. So an unwritten rule basically is that the FIA will allow you to change this part as long as you inform them which parts have been changed, and after that, well, obviously you show them the parts, so the FIA will come, they will weigh the part, they will check in terms of dimension and profile, if it's a wishbone, that they are the right components to put on the car. But yes, it's possible to do, it takes time, but they will be allowed to restart the race.
Thank you very much. Really appreciating the insight down there. We're also appreciating the marshals down at turn number 1 who have repaired the barrier. Now, the reason it's taken slightly longer, it's not Tech Pro like we saw in Mexico City. It is old school tyres that they've had to replace there. Then the casing over the top, so that can take a little bit longer than just replacing a link in the fence, if you like, which is what you have with the Tech Pro tyres. So most drivers with the headset on, feeding back, as you heard from Julian earlier on. They've been talking about the start that they had, what they can do differently, and how they are going to approach things going forward. There will be the signal given by race control, and then you can see the drivers preparing. There's Carlos Sainz, who will be starting from the grid the second time, from 8th in the classification, ahead of Ocon, Tsunoda, Gasly, and the 2 Alfa Romeos of Bottas and Zhou.
Ocon was the man who had that view of the 3 cars coming together ahead of him. He's now up in 9th place in the Alpine, so that's good stuff from him. When we saw the Hulkenberg on board, it reminded me, it was only a few races ago that he had exactly that sandwich between Perez and Ocon in Qatar in the sprint, and he tried to back out of it at the last minute, and again that was for points in the sprint in Qatar. We're seeing a lot of these sort of three drivers squeezing. That was not at the start of the race in Qatar, it was just halfway through with Ocon struggling for Deg. But a lot of the times now we're seeing more and more drivers moving across into the first corner, and like you said, Japan very, very nearly had it. Mexico, we very nearly had it with Norris, backed out very early on the restart, lost 5 places as a result, but stayed in the race.
The one common theme with all of that is slightly old school circuits, not as wide as maybe we have at, say, a Tilke style new version where the tracks can be very wide. This place was originally built in 1938. It is very, very thin compared to more modern tracks out there. You will have seen the graphic whilst we're discussing all of that. The 10-minute signal has been given, with the race will resume at 31 minutes past the hour.
And the other thing is slightly narrower tracks, but there's no huge expanse of runoff on the side. There's a lot of grass, you know, outside of in Japan and Mexico there's grass. There was a grass at the end there for Albon, and you can't just bolt over on there. It's slippery and you might find yourself in the wall. There's only a couple of meters to give on the way into turn 1 as well. So if there was on some of the other circuits, then you just go very cautious, get into that runoff and save yourself. Not on these old school tracks, they're more punishing.
You can see Charles Leclerc is down there speaking to the assembled media in the pen, and that is not where he wanted to be. Pete Bonington in conversation with the team, with his driver, I'm sure. Everyone getting back into the zone, having left the pit lane earlier on, 50 minutes before the race, the interruption, the delay, and then we're back to it once again.
Second time in 4 races that a Ferrari's not going to compete.
Yeah, after Sainz had the issue back in Qatar, and of all the races to miss, I don't think he would have been too disappointed when he saw the state of everyone getting out of the car at the end of the Grand Prix.
Low-key chuff with that, I think. Drivers really, really struggling in Qatar, but Sainz didn't start. 2 DNSs in 4 races for Ferrari. So the reliability, as we get to the end of this season, really, really hurting. And remember, they're in the fight still with Mercedes in the constructors, and on a day that maybe Mercedes don't have the best setup, it's that's huge points lost already for Ferrari.
Okay, let's hear from the drivers on lap 1.
Okay, yeah, debris hit my rear wing. It's broken. Yeah, I tried to miss it. I think it was a piece of a tyre in the air, but it got my rear wing.
Yeah, copy that.
I just hope we beat this clutch as soon as we're back in parallel.
Copy that. We'll speak about it later, please.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. Don't really have words for.
Recharge on.
Yeah, it's just one guy's focusing more on his mirrors than ahead of him, but anyway.
That's Pierre Gasly in the Alpine on the opening lap.
Is Gasly talking about his teammate there? Ocon was the driver just in front, and he came across to defend from Gasly. That sounded to me like a driver that's frustrated with his teammate, and those two have had a bit of a run-in already this weekend in practice. Gasly wanted a flying lap right at the end and Ocon was blocking him. I think Gasly was not talking about the incident of the 2 houses, but was more concerned about Ocon going across the width of the track twice, once to defend from Gasly, the second one to avoid the crash ahead.
They're going to look, understandably, race control at the incident involving Albon and Magnussen. Jolyon's expectation is it's a racing incident. Do you concur, James?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those classic things. It's funny because I see your point there, Jolyon, about the radio transmission from Gasly. He seemed a little bit too upset for that to have been, you know, directed at something that had nothing to do with him, that just sort of happened in front of him. But at the same time, I think the same does apply for that situation in front. You know, the driver's just looking too much into the mirror, trying to defend against the one car. You lose a little bit of kind of spatial awareness of where the other cars are, and that 3-2 situation can just transpire like that.
Yeah, it is the same case as you said. If it was just, he was talking about the Haas cars colliding with the Williams, normally as a driver, you're pretty chuffed to see 3 rivals end up in the wall straight away in the first corner, and you're sweeping through for a look at some points today. Ocon 9th, Gasly now 11th, and he'll be staring at points if he gets a good restart. So it's never a problem to see your rivals in trouble at any time in a Grand Prix. It's dreamy stuff when you see the guy at the front spinning off on the formation lap as well. That's another place up. And when you're further down in the field, every time someone else has an issue, it's obviously good for you. But what you're frustrated by is your teammate getting their elbows out quite as much as I think Gasly perceived Ocon did there to hold him back.
The race is going to resume at 31 minutes past the hour. Any cars that have been worked on in the garage during this red flag period are permitted to rejoin the race, but they cannot take the start on the grid. They'll have to return for a pit lane start as we resume the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. That clarification coming from the FIA. Alex Albon already back into the team kit. Frustration for him. It's not been an easy weekend for the Williams team. Their car doesn't really suit this track. They are all eyes to Vegas now because they believe that's their best opportunity for points at the end of this long season of Formula One that has provided so many twists and turns, and you get the feeling when you come racing here that we're in for some more. So really interesting stuff across the board. Just a reminder of what they have been able to work on in the red flag delay. They've been able to start the engines. They can add compressed gases to the car, fit or remove cooling and heating devices. They can change the ducting on the front and rear brakes and the radiators, and driver comfort and the tyres.
Do effectively a formation lap to the grid and then standing start.
So that's the jurisdiction of the race director, and just like Mexico City, we're going to get a standing start.
As we should in this situation. We're going to have 15 drivers taking a standing start. Piastri's back in the car, and the McLaren crew is still working on the rear end of that. We've got 3 minutes, so it's going to be a race against time, but Oscar doing the sensible thing, getting himself strapped in, getting back in the zone. But he'll be from the pit lane, along with his compatriot Daniel Ricciardo then. And a standing start is more opportunities, and those, I mean, Sainz was on the radio saying, when we get back, put the clutch in the bin. He's got to use it again now, yep. And he's got 8th place, got to try and make some ground. But if you've already had one bad start, I don't know what you think, Hinch, but it gets in your head a little bit, and you then get worried next time you line up on the standing start. It's kind of a mental game, the start.
Yeah, it can be for sure, but you also have some adjustments you can make. So if anything, you like the opportunity to get a second chance to try to make it better. But, you know, Jolien, I remember always being asked this question as a driver when you have a start. You know, you go through this whole procedure as a driver in the build up to a race. You have, you know, your set routine. You kind of get yourself in the zone. You have to do it quickly because you see how busy and amped up and energetic the grid is. It's not like you got to go sit in a quiet room for half an hour and get into your mental space. You have to do that in the 3 minutes you have strapped into the cockpit before the formation lap. So you go through that whole mental procedure as an athlete to get yourself in the zone, and then a minute and a half after the start, we're red flagged, you're out of the car, and it's all gone back to zero. Did you ever find it difficult to get back in after a restart and still have that same level of focus?
It takes a slight adjustment. You've got to train yourself to get back in, and you can see the eyes of Max there sitting in the Red Bull. You have a few moments at this point to collect your thoughts, and it's crucial that you get in the zone.
Let's hear from the Ferrari driver who exited the race on the formation lap. Let's hear now from Charles Leclerc.
When I lost the steering wheel, and that I went straight basically because I had no hydraulic anymore. I don't think it's a hydraulic problem. I mean, I know what it is. I cannot go too much into detail. Then there was an engine thing that made me lock the rear wheels, and then obviously I spun and hit the wall, so I couldn't do anything.
Carlos had an issue with hydraulics in Mexico, so is this different? It's different to that?
I haven't gone into details with the guys, but what they've seen is completely different, and it's not what happened to Carlos.
And also we've heard on his radio just now that he said, I can't wait to bin this clutch when we get back to Maranello. Is that just an issue on his car where he's not happy with it, or have you both been unhappy?
No, I was
with
happy with my car. I think we are changing the settings he'd been doing cars from weekend to weekend. I think he wasn't happy with what they've done on their side of the garage, but on my side it was all good.
Charles Leclerc giving us his thoughts after retiring on the formation lap of this about to be resumed Sao Paulo Grand Prix.
I think there's a power unit issue for Leclerc. The way that there's a little puff from the engine as well. It goes and then it just pitches him into the wall.
We are back out onto the track after a lengthy delay of 25 minutes, which saw a big incident at the opening corner of the opening lap. We see the cars now trail out of the pit lane. They will form up on the grid. They will generate the tyre temperature, the brake temperature that they need. Max Verstappen getting on with it as well. He has the closest rival that he's had all weekend alongside him, though. Norris thought his chance to take his maiden Grand Prix victory had gone. He will get a standing start in front of a record crowd around here to try and do what he couldn't do yesterday and lead at the end of the resumption of the race.
If Norris gets the same start as he did just a moment ago, he's going to be tough to keep behind if you're Verstappen. That inside line, if you can get alongside the car on the outside, then it gives you a brilliant opportunity to come through.
There is Max Verstappen, who shot out of the pit lane, immediately bringing a gap and then waiting for the rest of the field. Don't want to be sitting there on pole position, waiting for the rest of the field to join you, with the temperatures getting lower as well.
Piastri and Ricciardo are joining the fray. So this is Daniel Ricciardo leaving the pits. He's got Oscar Piastri, that's the McLaren just ahead. They'll have to peel back in and start from the pits, but great news for the two Aussies. They're going to be in this race, and with only 17 drivers still in it, got to find 7 places, and they're back in the points.
So we thought we had 5 out of the race. We're back down to 3 that have retired. Charles Leclerc, Kevin Magnussen, Alex Albon, and 26 minutes later, the world champion is bringing the field to the line. Evocative moments as the revs rise, as the temperature is sought, and how brave can Norris be from second place that hasn't had a start from that grid slot so far today, doesn't have the rubber laid down of other positions on the grid, and keep an eye for the sole remaining Ferrari as well. Carlos Sainz not happy with the clutch on that car. He starts from the middle of the pack in 8th, and it could be avoiding action for those behind. Who's behind? You've got Ocon, Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly, who was not a happy chap on the radio a few moments ago. Take 2 is a few moments away. The track temperature is 49 degrees. The air temperature is 20. Still a big opportunity for Aston Martin to kickstart their season once again after getting lost in the last couple of races. And you saw in your shot there the McLaren of Oscar Piastri and Daniel Ricciardo peeling back to where they will resume the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Last car in position then is 15th place Nico Hülkenberg. And it is time to watch for the lights. The Sao Paulo Grand Prix resumption is 5 lights away. Formula One is racing once again, and it's a good launch off the line for Max Verstappen. Exactly what he needed. The 2 Brits go wheel to wheel into turn number 1. Lando Norris, I think, will hold second place, and he does so. Hamilton maintaining 3rd, but he's going to have the advancing Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso all over the back of him, down to turn number 4. Good run at this point. No DRS at this stage. Fernando Alonso against his old racing rival to the inside of 4. How brave is he feeling? There's your answer. He's up to 3rd place.
Really good move from Alonso there, wasn't given a lot of space. Hamilton can fight back, but this is tricky up towards turn 6. Quick right-hander, and Lewis has to back out. It was like for like as the first stop between the 2 Brits into the first corner, Norris and Hamilton, and once again Norris coming out on top. The other man that's lost out once again is Lance Stroll. There's the second Aston Martin, again losing a couple of places.
So Stroll heading backwards as we look at a chance now around the outside. That would be brave stuff from Yuki Tsunoda if he was able to get past Pierre Gasly. He's keeping his foot in though. You don't get many passes at this stage of the racetrack, and Tsunoda erred on the side of caution, up against his old teammate, up against his good friend, had a couple of nibbles, no way through.
Oh, he's wide, he's really wide out of the corner though. He's compromised. There goes Gasly through, and he's going to lose all the way up this straight if he's not careful.
So Ocon was able to take the place, and now you've got Hulkenberg tucked underneath the rear wing. But look at the speed that Tsunoda's got trying to come past. One driver on the left, one on the right. Gasly hugging the inside line. Gasly stays there. Lance Stroll trying to keep the Ferrari behind. Lance Stroll in 7th, Sainz in 8th. And we now have lap 5 of 71 in progress. 9 tenths, 8 tenths of a second, the lead for Max Verstappen.
Tsunoda managed to keep Hulkenberg behind. They were so close heading towards the first corner. Gasly taking the place. In fact, it was Ocon. Gasly got the better start of the two Alpines. They're 9th and 10th. They're now both in the points, having watched that first lap shunt with the two Haas cars. There's the other one, Nico Hulkenberg, the one remaining Haas now in the race, down in 12th. But perfect start from Verstappen. He's got 1 second to Norris. And the good news for Norris is that Alonso's now in 3rd. So we would expect Hamilton to be probably quicker than the Aston Martin in the Mercedes in this race. You never know after Mercedes' miserable sprint yesterday, but Norris has a buffer back to Hamilton, and he can now just, I think in this race, look at the lead and see if he can do anything about Max.
It'll be interesting to see what Checo Perez can do here as well, because we saw him pass both of these Mercedes in the sprint yesterday as those softs started to go off. 24 laps is what they had to run on them. I imagine they're going to be coming in a little bit sooner than that, as DRS now enabled, coming across the line for the second time. And we already saw a lot of action when everybody didn't have DRS. Let's see now as we're looking at one of the Alfa Romeos trying to go by the Haas.
Thinking better of it, tucking back into the slipstream. Valtteri Bottas, a winner of a sprint race around here, trying to get past Hulkenberg for 12th position. These two teams battling in the Constructors' Championship.
Norris has just got himself back within DRS range of Verstappen, so that'll allow him to have a better chance of staying there, gaining a little bit on each of these long straights. He's managed to find a couple of tenths in the first sector, and that's got him there. He's really close to Max as they come through towards the middle sector.
All-out attack in that first sector, the fastest of the Grand Prix so far. For Lando Norris did a 19.3, Verstappen had a 19.7, and they're using a different approach before. Daniel Ricciardo thanked the team for repairing the car. He's rejoined the race along with Oscar Piastri. Here's the second start.
I think Verstappen's made a mistake on this first sector. That's why Norris has closed up. He got a great start though, didn't he? Hamilton and Norris side by side into the first corner. Lewis has a bit of a lock up there as he's braking and turning, and Lando comes through. And then the move really is from Alonso. It's a lovely one with not a lot of space up towards turn 4. Gets a slipstream. Hamilton slightly compromised by running offline. And there, Alonso taking no prisoners down the inside. And great job on the brakes as well to cement that pass.
I mean, I stood right there at that apex. We talked about it in practice as we ride on board with Lando Norris now. It's still a very quick corner. He had to be super committed to be turning in from there. See a wheel-to-wheel, bit of a lock up there from Hamilton on the outside of Norris. That allowed Norris to just sneak ahead and keep that position. But no, what a brilliant move by Fernando there down into turn 4.
Lando Norris is going to work. It's lap 7 of 71. We've had 2 starts, and Norris is not waiting to see whether those soft tyres will hang on. He is pushing, he is harrying Max Verstappen, and he was disappointed with himself off the line yesterday. Felt he should have been more aggressive. Jolien, you analysed his move in Austin, where you felt he could have been more aggressive trying to keep Verstappen behind in the US Grand Prix. Is this the day that the gloves come off between these two?
He's just done the fastest lap of the race in his pursuit of Verstappen. Max is responding on this lap. There's 8 tenths between them, but once again, Lando will have the DRS on this main straight. He's surely going to be a little too far back on this go, but he's giving it a full send at the moment in the McLaren. There we go, DRS opens. Can he get close enough? He's closing.
Look at this at nearly 200 miles per hour down to turn 1 on lap number 8, and that is a defensive shape thrown by Max Verstappen, who is under pressure from his great friend. They're at the front of the field. They're battling now for the lead in Sao Paulo. Only once has Max Verstappen won at this configuration. Lando Norris has never taken the win in a Grand Prix, and he's going around the outside, or at least trying to. Brilliant effort from Lando Norris for the first time really in a long time. You are watching Max Verstappen check the left mirror, check the right mirror. Game on in Brazil.
He is piling on the pressure right now, Norris. 3 tenths between them. He's got to just get a tenth or two closer as they get the DRS and they come out of Yunsao, the final corner. And that straight line speed with the DRS is threatening for Norris, but he's lost out a little bit through turns 7 and 8.
Telling yesterday, he was asked about, you didn't quite have the power. He's like, no, we have the power. He's confident in the slipperiness of that papaya McLaren up against the quality car of the field, the Constructors' Championship, the Drivers' Champion, and I tell you what, Verstappen would not have enjoyed that at all, because he has just torched this lap. He has absolutely torched it by way of response. He comes over the line, DRS broken, but how good to see those two at the front of the field pushing each other. How far can Norris push him as we go through? You heard George Russell on the radio a couple of moments ago saying, let's work together. He says he's not going to attack Lewis Hamilton. Mercedes working tactically. This was for the lead at turn number 4.
It was good defence from Max. He covered the middle of the road. It was enough of a deterrent to stop Lando diving, going for a huge lunge at the first corner. It gave Lando a chance up to turn 4, but again, Max covering that inside line, and it was difficult to do much around the outside there. Turn 4's the lesser of the two overtaking places.
Norris going all in, Norris closing the gap, had the look. He just, you said it, Jodin, he just needed a couple of tenths out of turn number 12. He was just lacking it, but it's now 1.8 seconds. Verstappen trying to leave his rival behind and check out front.
I wonder if that was Norris going full deployment as well, because he has such good straight line speed. I wonder if that was full overtake button, use everything from the battery and all or nothing. Didn't work, and now he's having to regather it. Can he go for another chance, or has Verstappen now just managed to halt the McLaren charge?
I'm having to push too hard in 11 and 12. I either overtake or it needs to manage more with it.
So Russell has suggested the tactics, but he needs Hamilton to not leave him behind at a circuit where the 7-time world champion has won here 3 times. And so we've got quite the battle on our hands. We're going to see some interesting stuff all the way through the race. Across the line, it's 9 thousandths of a second between Piastri and Ricciardo, who were racing each other yesterday. They're trying to close up and overtake, having thought at one point, with a shorter delay, they would have been both out of the Grand Prix, but we had a 25-minute delay and they were both able to resume from the pit lane. It's lap 10 of 71. We lost Charles Leclerc at Fedora, the 6th corner of the racetrack on the formation lap. We had a clash between Kevin Magnussen and Alex Albon, a delay to repair the barrier. We thought Piastri and Ricciardo might retire as well. They didn't. The barrier has been repaired, and Lando Norris, with that fastest lap of the race under his arm, went all in, burnt through the tyres to try and get up to Max Verstappen, forced a defensive move into 1, defensive move into 4, and Verstappen has responded like he always seems to in Formula 1 2023, calmly easing away. 1 Red Bull disappearing, 1 on the attack. We go on board with Sergio Perez, definitely chasing a podium finish today. That would have been his aim after what we saw yesterday in the sprint. Now, ahead we've got 2 cars working together, the 2 Mercedes using DRS, and I tell you what, it is a real opportunity for Perez now. He is getting a toe off George Russell. Russell is trying to work with his teammate. There you go, he's got DRS once again. Without it, Perez would easily be by, and that is as you were into turn number 4.
And Mercedes is not good on straight line speed, and Russell knows it. The Red Bull is very good. It's blasted past both of these cars yesterday, and Russell there using the DRS. It's the Sainz Singapore trick, the DRS train that Russell is forming behind his teammate, and they're dropping away quickly from Fernando Alonso ahead. Alonso's keeping Norris on his toes right now as well. Got to within 1.2 seconds on the last lap as Lando's challenge is faltering, and it's now 1.5 seconds, but Alonso driving very well.
You can see the minor lock-up there for George Russell, and that will give the impetus to Sergio Perez. Russell was saying that he doesn't quite have the rotation of the car that Hamilton has on the infield, and he is needing Hamilton to stay within a second, otherwise Perez will be by, and it's a moment of patience for Perez, Stroll, Sainz, Gasly, all in this DRS train.
We were saying Parc Fermé rules mean Mercedes can't change their car, but what they can do is change the driving. Perez getting closer, but not close enough into turn 1. I think Hamilton is just massively tempering his pace here. He is a long way slower than those ahead. That lap it was closer, but still 6/10 slower than Norris, who was the fastest of the top 3 responding on that last lap. Hamilton is just managing the tyres. They can't change the car. All they can do is change how they treat the tyres from the cockpit, and that is why Hamilton is just not able to attack right now. He's got to try and get some life out of his Pirellis.
So, Julian, let me ask you this. Do you think that that message from George Russell, as we right on board here with Valtteri Bottas, coming up on the sole remaining Haas of Nico Hülkenberg on the outside here into turn 1? fairly easily executed there. Well done from him. But do you think that message was received by Lewis Hamilton, and he is just trying to keep George in check there in that 1 second window, or is this just the pace that Mercedes has right now?
Oh, it's on the precipice, isn't it? The 1 second. I think Perez is going to be too quick over the duration of this race, but it is a nice tactic to keep 4th and 5th. Hamilton has to just manage the pace. If he starts to chase down the gap to Alonso.
Okay, Fernando, so we're still on plan A. Plan A.
Copy, agree.
Perez getting really close in the braking zone there. He will get another opportunity into turn number 4.
Tsunoda having a good look there at the Alpine. And yeah, if Hamilton starts to go chasing after Alonso for the top 3, he'll open up the tyre and he'll open up the potential them falling away very quickly as well, and he'll lose a decent chunk. So he has to just manage the pace right now and hope that Alonso starts falling away before the pit window, and then they can go chasing, because what we saw yesterday was Mercedes going aggressive and it came back to bite both of them.
You also look at, as we get into the pit stop window, Max Verstappen will be looking for a handy gap to drop the car into. You need 21 seconds in order to make your stop and rejoin the racetrack. And at the moment, if he was to make his stop, get rid of those soft tyres, he would find himself dropping down between the battle around, well, to the back of the field, really. When you look at the field spread at the moment. Short lap here, only 2.6 miles, and everyone's battling all the way through the field. This is Logan Sargent trying to get past Hulkenberg.
Yeah, Tsunoda did clear Esteban Ocon, so that's the AlphaTauri back up into the points. We know the race pace is good.
Here's the move for Perez. It's been coming for a while, and the Mexican driver finally dives to the inside. The tactics were good from Mercedes. Can George Russell fight back? They were working as a team. He will now get the DRS this time from Perez, who's cleared him. But can he stay ahead? Millimetres between them. Russell places the car well. Perez fights back in the braking zone, and he tries the up and under. He nearly nudges into his rival, but Perez is up to 5th.
Lovely stuff.
That's exactly what had to happen there. I mean, it's so frustrating as a driver, as we hear Russell's radio.
Are we working together here, or are we just doing our own race?
We're still discussing.
I don't know, man. It sounded like Hamilton was doing his best to keep you there as long as he could, but at the same time there, Checo with that great dive into turn 1, but it's so frustrating when then the driver you've just passed has DRS down into turn 4, so you have to get aggressive on the inside there, and Checo doing a great job, super late on the brakes, nice and controlled. That was a necessary move. There's no doubt he was working his front tires a ton, running so close to the back of Russell. Let's see now how quickly he can chase down the 2.5 seconds he has to Lewis Hamilton.
Those two had the exact same dice yesterday, didn't they? Russell came through once, he didn't the next time, and Perez went off after the other Mercedes. He'll do the same now. Russell has DRS, but the straight line speed is so bad in that car. What happened there was he just dropped more than a second from Hamilton. That's why he got on the radio and said, are we working together? No DRS, and as soon as he didn't have it, Checo was through.
This is the efficiency of aerodynamics for the Mercedes driver, because there's a Mercedes power unit in the back of Lance Stroll's car, which is 0.4 of a second away from George Russell. Esteban Ocon, having been passed by Yuki Tsunoda, comes in on lap 15, and will that trigger a round of responses from everyone else, because fresh rubber is going to be very useful here.
That's 3 stopper territory, isn't it, for Ocon pitting this early. We know the degradation's high, and Ocon has not managed very well. Alpine bolting straight for a 3-stopper. This was what I really loved from Perez, that he managed to match Russell on the brakes at turn 4, but not run wide, not run off the track. He parked it on the apex and managed to just bulk Russell on the exit there.
Meanwhile, you've got Sainz really confident in the infield section. 8th place Ferrari trying to get past Lance Stroll. Stroll, who effectively started the original race in P2 after Leclerc found the barriers on the formation lap. Stroll finding himself in 7th. Chance for the Ferrari driver now. Last one left in the race, and it is still DRS for Stroll, DRS for Sainz, and the same order as they leave turn 1.
Front of the field, the gap's not come up between Verstappen and Norris, just over 2 seconds. Lando a couple of tenths quicker the last lap.
So, George, we need more management. Turn 11 on throttle.
You want me to race or concede positions? You want more management? I will go backwards.
We do need to make sure these tyres make it through the stim. We do want to race, but we want to make it through the stim.
So Russell, a picture of frustration at the moment. He doesn't quite have the car performance compared to other races this year, very competitive. In Singapore, where he was in contention for the win that day, had that mistake on the last lap, didn't finish that one, but a mile off the performance that we saw from him last year when he won the sprint, and his only Grand Prix victory to date, with a fine drive ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Chased him all the way home. The gap less than 2 seconds across the line for Russell's maiden Grand Prix win, and it's not working out how he wants to. He is trying to balance that fine dance between keeping the pace, keeping life in the tyres. And how's he going to be doing that, Jolien? What can you do as a driver to try and minimise taking the life out of the Pirellis?
Basically not sliding, not putting too much energy through the rear end particularly. Turn 11 is Magulio, quick left-hander before the final proper turn at the bottom of the hill, and it's the high speed where you're putting more energy through the tyres as well. So if you can just be a little bit neat, a bit tidier, even if you have to blend out of the throttle in some normally easy flat corners, just to reduce that, lose hundredths of a second each lap, it will save the tyre life, less energy, and you'll get a bit more payback in other places. So it's basically not being too aggressive on the throttle pedal generally, and being smooth on the steering.
This is further back in the field. This is Oscar Piastri with the DRS open and clearing Hulkenberg. Not even a contest. And through he goes into turn number 1. So Piastri manages to fight by. And this is Yuki Tsunoda. Oh, Yuki Tsunoda gathering it together. He just put his left wheel on the grass, and that has cost him.
I've seen so many drivers flirt with that. They've been right up on the grass. I've seen Checo do it a couple of times, and down at this part as well, on that grass sort of creek area coming down into Yunsao, the final corner there. Tsunoda, that's a sloppy one. I always think when you drop a wheel, it's kind of greed meets a lack of concentration, and that's really hurting there. He's lost out to Bottas, and he was having a fine race, wasn't he? He's just lost a crucial place.
This is driver's eye view with the man who is trying to turn 5th into 4th, and he will do so. Sergio Perez, fine drive yesterday into the top 3 of the sprint. They're cheering for him at Interlagos because he's made his way by, and that is a simple pass up to 4th, up 3 places. Hamilton trying to fight back, but it's the outside line, and Perez says, you're not doing what you did to me in the early stages yesterday. Hamilton all over the back of him, trying to get aggressive. Will they go side by side up the hill to Fedadura? I think it'll be the inside line, and the place confirmed. Hamilton did not want to give that up. It's amazed he was able to stay so close as they changed direction at high speed, but it's 4th place for the Mexican driver.
These two fighting out for 2nd in the championship as well, so that'll hurt a little bit for Hamilton. You can see him sliding there, coming through the left-hander at the bottom of the hill, turn 9. Perez a little bit wide up at 10. All of the drivers hurting a little bit with those rear tyres, but Mercedes are particularly harsh, and Hamilton just can have no answer today for Perez. It's now 8 seconds. Checo's got to close in, and he can close in on Fernando Alonso because the Red Bull is really, really kind on its tyres.
Let's give you an update for the race for the lead, and it is still a race for the lead. Last time around, Lando Norris a smidge quicker than Max Verstappen. As we see down in the pit lane, it's Lewis Hamilton who has decided to come into the pits, stopping on his marks. So having been passed, the immediate response to get rid of the soft tyres and to go to a new set of the Pirelli mediums. 2.7 seconds and a decent stop for Mercedes Hinch.
Yeah, it was. I mean, not as quick as we've seen, but not terrible by any stretch. And it's a good call. They're in that window for the 2-stopper, certainly. And you almost saw it coming by how little fight he really put up against Checo. You don't want to lose too much time on your in and out laps. These pit sequences are so important. In laps and out laps are crucial. And by fighting, you're just going to rob yourself of lap time. So a good move here for Mercedes.
Let's pick up the pace, Lando, a little bit. Let's pick up. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Well, for those who wanted to see a battle for the win in Brazil, the first part of that message, very encouraging. Lando's answer, no, I am trying to stay with the champion driver of the year and the man who has absolutely dominated Formula One in 2023. 2.7 seconds at this stage. Very, very impressive stuff to stay that close.
Yeah, he's within undercut range still, Norris. Russell's going to pit then this lap, the other Mercedes, and Mercedes still coming in early, even though they've been managing the pace in that first stint. They're still chewing through the tyres. Norris is keeping within undercut range there, 2.7 seconds. It'll be a big undercut. He'll rely on Verstappen not having much in his tyres left to respond, and we did see yesterday Max had something when he needed it, when Lando closed in the gap. But That's what they've got to aim for now at McLaren, and they're clearly giving Lando the hurry up to try and make that happen.
The two Mercedes not separated by much as they come out of the pits, but it will be Hamilton, foot to the floor, more racetrack to deal with, who is ahead of George Russell. And there you go, Hamilton, then Russell, and then Ocon in the background in 12th position. Car number 63, the winner here last year, will bring those tyres into the working window.
Got a problem with my left front, it's starting to steer right.
Okay, copy, we're looking at it.
So that is not what you want at all, and a very unusual one. Hamilton reporting on the radio there. This battle was close to turn 4. Watching it on the driver tracker in the commentary box, Carlos Sainz almost turning in super early there. Nearly cut the apex of the corner at turn 12. Sergio Perez covering off what Mercedes have done. They've gone to the fresh rubber, and now Perez has been called into the pit lane. You can see him there on the left-hand side of your picture, and he will hit the mark. He's had more of the best pit stops in the race than any other driver so far this year, and he's back out on the medium tyre. 2.2 seconds, very, very quick by Red Bull once again.
Where's Hamilton going to be, though? These two are fighting on Hamilton's in-lap. Lewis then not feeling comfortable in the car, saying he's got a problem. Very, very odd radio message during a Grand Prix that from Hamilton, and we'll see if Perez can keep that track position as he exits.
So we've gone to the other battle, but it looks like Hamilton has got past Perez. They're not separated by much at the moment. So Perez has come out behind Hamilton. We believe we're watching the Aston Martin and Stroll fight the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. It's the battle for 4th on the road, but significantly, Perez is going to have to make that pass again that we saw, because he's in a Mercedes sandwich further back.
I think after seeing him do it twice yesterday and twice today,
Any confident?
Yeah, I think they're not too worried about the prospect of Checo doing that. The top speed difference is pretty huge, and Checo's going to be right with Lewis Hamilton as they come round to complete this lap, I think. Sainz struggling on his soft tyres, having a few stabs and turning in to the final corner. They're now up in 4th place and trying to do something different. The Aston Martins and Carlos Sainz in this fight, trying to go longer and give themselves options later on in the race.
Sainz really fighting that car at the moment, but he's not the only one. It's been a weekend of scruffy laps sometimes being good enough and adapting with what you've got underneath you. Hamilton personal best on that lap in all 3 sectors of the racetrack, and this is why, because he's having to really push on to keep Sergio Perez behind. Perez dropped into that gap between the 2 Mercedes drivers. Hamilton has yet to update the team on that front left.
Why did we follow them? We should do a race. Don't worry about them.
You've got the pace.
I sort of see Checo's point there. I mean, yes, he's going to be able to get by him most likely, but we don't know if maybe the Mercedes is a little bit stronger on the mediums than it was on the softs. You're still going to burn some of your own tires and lose a lot of lap time running behind another car. So I get why he'd want to kind of run his own race and try to avoid having to come out right behind Lewis and pass him again. That said, I mean, he's definitely making Lewis push hard. He was by far the quickest car on the track the last lap, and it's impressive when you just look at the lap times that up front, you're still able to see Max on those softs run incredibly competitive lap times. Norris starting to answer as well.
Yeah, Norris in the last couple of laps trying to come back time and time again. Stroll has come into the pits, he's stopping. Perez has got a good run here now, looking for the 3rd move of the weekend on Lewis Hamilton. Thought about the inside, thought about the outside, not much between the two. Hamilton super aggressive there to keep the position, but that puts you offline as you make your way down the hill to turn number 4. Wonderful sound of the V6 turbocharged engines, and Hamilton driving on that right-hand mirror. Perez has the speed, has the DRS, has the place, and he's got back past Lewis Hamilton, who jumped him at the stops.
That is a straight look at the top speed difference between the Red Bull and the Mercedes. When the Mercedes have been fighting back on the Red Bull there, they can get halfway along the outside, but it's not enough, and Checo's been able to defend it. When the Red Bull's behind with the DRS, it's done before they even get to the corner. He's managed to pull clean through just on the straight, and that is why, as well as the degradation, the straight line speed of the Mercedes means they're not able to fight here, and that's why Red Bull weren't worried about it.
Zhou Guanyu out of the race, instructed by the team to retire the car. Frustration for him. And the Chinese driver wheeled into the garage. His afternoon of racing is complete well before he wanted it to be over. 22 laps into this 2nd phase of the Grand Prix. If you're wondering about that graphic, 24 overall. And this is Ocon and Stroll now being displayed in your picture, and you can see the difference of lap time between old tyres and new. And well, you've got Stroll in 10th, you've got Ocon in 11th position, and Stroll has come out of the pits. That's a slightly confusing graphic at the bottom of the picture, but either way, you've got Stroll in 10th place, Ocon, then Bottas, who's 1.8 seconds behind, and there you go, Bottas on the charge in the background, and then you've got Sargent on the softs, Hulkenberg on the softs, Ricciardo ahead of Piastri. Ricciardo and Piastri starting this second phase of the Grand Prix from the pit lane.
Caps at the front order, just starting to spread out now. Norris nearly 4 seconds behind Verstappen. They're heading towards a comfortable two-stopper, the leading trio. And Fernando Alonso is having a cracking race in the Aston Martin. Hasn't been on the podium since Zandvoort. The pace of the Aston Martin's been woeful in recent races. He's having a really, really decent drive. And we saw Fernando yesterday have decent life on the tyres. He was having an attacking race. Today, he wants to have the quietest race possible. And his fight is going to be with Sergio Perez later on.
Looking for his 9th podium at Interlagos. Fernando Alonso has never won here, but he has always found a way to get to the rostrum. His last podium in Brazil, though, was the final race of the V8 era. That was 2013. Stroll in good position, Stroll in great position to improve 10th place to 9th, and that's not even a fight.
Those guys are both pitted. That's Stroll on Russell, that's for position. And the Mercedes struggling so much here. And it's always a concern when you can't change your car after 1 hour of practice. You've got to lock it in. It bit them in Austin. They got disqualified, but they had at least great car performance to put on a show. Here, the car performance is tough, and the drivers are trying to do something about it. They're trying to nurse the tyres, they're trying to drive steady, but you can't do that and then have no top speed to defend as well. They're in a real pickle.
There's two things that are being confirmed here that we saw yesterday in the sprint. First and foremost, the Aston Martin is definitely taking care of its tires. We saw them move up from the back of the field in the sprint. And then the Mercedes is tough on tires. It was tough on the softs, and I don't know, Julian, it looks to me almost like it might even be worse on the mediums. They're already falling to other cars on the same tire. It's not looking great.
Yeah, the pace just isn't good either. Here comes Alonso, and he's very steady onto his marks there, Fernando.
Let's see what the stop time is. 2.8. Anything under 3 is decent, is what you require. So Alonso pitting on lap 26 of 71, going on to the medium tyres. He's going to have Gasly, Tsunoda directly ahead of him as well. Let's see where he comes out. And there you go. There's the filtering their way through further on. And then you've got the two AlphaTauris ahead. And there is Fernando Alonso, the driver he's up against, Sergio Perez, 3.7 seconds behind him.
Perez isn't all that quick, though. He's done a personal best on the last lap, but he's only 0.3 quicker than Verstappen out there on a used soft. So he's not lighting it up just yet, Perez. Alonso pitting, Aston Martin choosing to cover him off, make sure that he doesn't have a sniff in case there's a slow pit stop at Aston Martin, and that's a sensible decision. But Perez isn't frightening anyone right now with his pace, and as you said, Hinch, the Mercedes are not particularly quick either. This medium tyre doesn't look like it's working all that well at this stage.
Yeah, Lance Stroll actually a few tenths quicker than Sergio on that last lap, same tire. So the Aston Martin definitely has some pace, but you're right, it's just so impressive what those top two are doing on a set of softs right now as we see Carlos Sainz into pit lane. When you think we're past the length of the sprint race and you started with a full tank of fuel, considerably more weight in the car, very impressive runs right now for both Max and Lando. Clean stop from the Ferrari guys, 2.3 seconds. Oh, that's tight.
It was tighter than you'd want it to be in the pit lane when they were rejoining. One AlphaTauri coming in, one Ferrari leaving, and all the while it is getting tough at the moment. Lance Stroll having a race of it at the moment. Lance Stroll resurgent after a tough middle part of the season on one lap pace. He sorted the one lap pace on Friday. Best starting position of the entire season so far in third. He's overtaking for fun right now in that second Aston Martin in the field. Fernando Alonso in third, Lance Stroll in 5th place, and able to overtake when he wants. Lando Norris was pushing on. He was 0.2 faster than Max Verstappen last time around. The gap is 3.4 seconds, and in they come at exactly the same time. Didn't expect to see that. Maybe he was expecting a bit of an offset, but Verstappen gets a 2.2 second stop. Norris cuts across him as he hits his marks, puts on the medium tyres, That crew managed a world record pit stop earlier in the season in Qatar of 1.8 seconds, 2.6 this time, and the top two back into the Grand Prix. Let's just see, as we leave the pits, what we've got for the drivers.
I'm surprised McLaren didn't try and do something different.
Yeah, I'm surprised they both came in at the same time.
That's negative from McLaren. Alonso there is exiting turn 3, so they have plenty of margin to cover off the Aston Martin there. And if you're running similar pace, 3.5 seconds, Norris did a cracking job in that first stint. Was still there or thereabouts with Verstappen. They're pretty even on pace. 3.5 seconds over 28 laps. Do something different. Go longer. Even if you lose ground in the short run, you'll have better tyres to go and attack. It's what we saw Hamilton and Verstappen doing all the time in 2021 when you're in a lead battle. McLaren just opting for the same lap, the same tyres with a 3.5 second deficit. It's giving them nothing.
So medium tyres on Verstappen, Norris, Alonso, Perez, Stroll. You go all the way down there for Logan Sargent, who is running the softs. He's done back-to-back soft stints, but everyone electing for the medium as expected, as we have a look now at the Mercedes pair. This is Lewis Hamilton, who has had some great days around this racetrack, but look at the state of those rear tyres, and remember, he's already reported on the radio problem with the front left.
Oh, that rear left looks rank for Hamilton. See it graining up in the middle there, the contact patch, and that is the rear degradation there. It's just balling up in the middle of the tyre. We can see it more when it slows down, and he's under pressure here from his teammate.
Well, these two battled for the win 1 year ago. They're only scrapping over 6th position today, but Hamilton really not happy at all. They had a torrid time of it in the sprint race, and ironically enough, this was the Grand Prix 1 year ago that led to them keeping their original car concept from 2022. They believed they could right the ship. It's not worked out that way. They've eventually changed to the same concept that we've seen for the entire field, and well, they've cost themselves a year inadvertently with that win last time out at this racetrack.
Sainz is about to blast up to the back of both of them. They don't want to lose any time fighting each other, whilst Hamilton's tyres look hideous. Russell is doing a better job of the tyre management on this set of mediums, but he's not going to be helped out sliding around in dirty air from his teammate either. Sainz will catch them. He's a second quicker than Hamilton on the last lap.
This is Sainz, a replay of the move to turn number 1 as he glides by effortlessly past the Alpine, and Esteban Ocon down to 9th. Sainz retaking 8th position. There's now 5.1 seconds between Verstappen and Norris. Normal lap this time around. Norris had a slightly slower one the lap before.
It was a very steady outlap from Lando. Lost pretty much a second and a half immediately as Russell still waits behind Lewis Hamilton. That gap immediately came up between the two. Lando maybe easing this medium tyre into to try and extend the stint at the end.
Move from Pierre Gasly, who's just got past Logan Sargent. You would have seen it on the left-hand side of your timing tower there. And Gasly is up to 11th position as he cycles through, as still the Mercedes stay in formation. We've heard a couple of times on the radio so far today from one-time Grand Prix winner George Russell. Are we going to hear again? The Mercedes battled each other pretty hard, didn't they, in Japan?
I think if I'm Russell, I am definitely getting on the radio now. He's just being held up at this stage behind Hamilton. He's been a little bit slower than Lewis in the last few races, but he's got to be given a bit of space here, because surely just driving around behind your teammate, if you're defending like he was in the first stint, great, you have the DRS, you have a chance to keep a faster car at bay. At this point, you're just on dirty air, you've got less airflow over your car, you're sliding around more, and you're going to start to cook your own tyres.
That's racing driver number 1. Racing driver number 2, do you agree, James Hinchcliffe?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, at this point, you know, it's to Russell's point, are we running our own race or working together? And the team says we're still discussing. Well, they need to get that discussion going and make a decision here pretty quick, because as you say, Julian, you're just losing time if you're George Russell. You're burning tires right now. Stroll is pulling away 4.8 seconds ahead of Hamilton right now. Sorry, 2.2 seconds ahead of Hamilton right now. That's a very achievable gap. You can see him just heading into turn 4 ahead of them. If I'm Mercedes at this point, you know, Hamilton's kind of had the chance. I think George does have the pace. I'd let him go.
Lewis has actually upped his pace in response. So I wonder if there has been communication that we've not heard yet, and they've given Hamilton the hurry up, and he has responded slightly. They're now only losing half a second a lap to Sainz, who is emerging in the background. He's going to get there. There he is, the Ferrari catching this Mercedes duo.
So they're stuck in no man's land, really. Not in the part of the points that they'd want to be in. Lance Stroll is disappearing down the road. Sergio Perez is inching in to Alonso's advantage. There's an atmospheric shot with a hover over the button. And Andrew Shovlin there celebrated a World Championship win as a race engineer for Jenson Button here back in 2009, and has since gone on to be the Director of Engineering for the once all-conquering Mercedes Formula 1 team, who won 8 Constructors' Championships in a row. That run ended 2 years in a row now by Red Bull.
It's frustrating for Russell. He's never quite close enough to send a move on his teammate either.
Gasly Express continuing to motor out there. Valtteri Bottas was ahead over the line. That's no longer the case, and Gasly moves up to 9th position. Bottas on the medium tyre, 13 laps old. Gasly, 5-lap-old mediums, and the Alpine making the place.
He's on a charge, isn't he? Pierre Gasly, looking like they can score some points today at Alpine. Ocon pitting, cementing his position on a 3-stop, and then he was the first driver to pit earlier on in the race. Took a short-term gain. He's back in for a 2nd stop. He will surely need a 3rd stop to make it through to the end of the Grand Prix. But with the pace he showed, he might have a chance to roar through and join his teammate up in the points by the end of it. Battle's closing up for 3rd position. Perez has just been chipping away at Alonso. 1.6 seconds between the two of them. That's going to get tasty soon. And Fernando will not give up easily. I don't think that podium plays.
Maximum Fernando coming your way in a couple of laps' time is our projection. Here's George Russell on the radio.
I haven't been on the radio because I thought it was quite obvious about the pace. Just sat there behind the tyres.
Nothing beats a bit of passive aggression sometimes.
I do enjoy Russell on the radio. That's the 3rd time today he's been pretty aggressive with the team. Sitting there frustrated, not the season that he was expecting at all. He did so well to beat Lewis Hamilton in the World Championship last year. Only Jenson Button, Nico Rosberg have done that when they've been Hamilton's teammate in the past, but this year Lewis Hamilton was racing up against Sergio Perez for 2nd in the Drivers' World Championship. George Russell, 8th position. 222 points coming into this one for Hamilton. Russell on 156. It's very much been Lewis Hamilton's year in the Mercedes pairing.
They'll be pitting Hamilton soon, I think, following Ocon and Alpine's lead onto a 3-stopper for Mercedes today. I'd have thought, and that will maybe put the two Mercedes on different strategies as well, which might clear their headache at the moment of worrying about team orders. Hamilton is actually just breaking away from Russell in this middle sector. Russell's not going to have the DRS, and Sainz very much is this time. There they go, 7th and 8th. Sainz right with George Russell.
There are little clues that you get throughout the Grand Prix. The picture that we're watching, it's that 34 of 71, middle sector of the racetrack. Middle sector begins at turn 4, it ends just before turn 12, and Max Verstappen was absolutely rapid through that part of the racetrack, the fastest middle sector of anyone so far. Lando Norris doing his personal best, and it was 0.3 of a second slower. So that shows you when Verstappen lights it up in the infield, in the technical part of the circuit, he is able to just leave Norris behind in the key part of the racetrack where we've heard about tyre management for other teams all race long. Progress being made by Yuki Tsunoda. Japanese driver is up to 11th position. He has just cleared Logan Sargent. He's on the medium. Sargent on the soft tyre. It's now a 16-lap-old soft tyre for the American driver. He became America's first point scorer in 30 years back in Austin.
Still have to struggle with the tyres. Okay, copy.
You can take that Palmer prediction to the bank.
Well, the tyres haven't been looking pretty for a while, and Hamilton now radioing it is. His lap times are still quite consistent. He's not dropped further back from Lance Stroll, who came past the two Mercedes a while ago. Sainz now right with George Russell. There they go, herring up the hill. This is going to be a chance for the Ferrari.
Well, this is going to be slam dunk stuff on the evidence of the rest of the weekend. Oh, it's not even a contest. Carlos Sainz easing by, and Mercedes might turn the volume down for George Russell's radio because they might be about to hear it. That was a 3-second gap that became a 2-second gap that became a 1-second gap that became a slam dunk pass, and the Ferrari goes past George Russell and will set off after Lewis Hamilton as well. Daniel Ricciardo is attacking further back in the order, and he is stuck in 15th though after his rear wing was hit by tyre debris at the start of the Grand Prix. It was a tap of the rear bodywork and rear wing as well for Oscar Piastri, both of those having to start from the pit lane for start number 2.
Norris doing a good job in this stint, 5 seconds back from Verstappen, and after that outlap, they're running at a very similar pace once again. They're on an identical strategy, the Red Bull and the McLaren. Behind, Alonso's just dropping away from the top two in this phase, and Perez is with him now, 1 second in that battle for third.
It was incremental, and then Alonso now is worried about that DRS for Perez, who was in the top three yesterday and chasing a return to the rostrum today. This is Lewis Hamilton ahead of Carlos Sainz. There is Hamilton making his way through in the distinctive Mercedes, being chased down by the Scarlet Ferrari. Russell just watching a battle he would love to be part of, but didn't have the car to be able to fight. This is the closest battle on the circuit, apart from Bottas and Tsunoda. They're separated by a couple of tenths across the line last time around, but Bottas still holding on to the final point.
And these are crucial points between these two teams as well. Tsunoda and Bottas. Tsunoda had that position, lost it with that mistake up to turn 10. He might get it back here.
We join the battle. Can he go around the outside, reclaim his place in the points? Bottas always races fairly. Tsunoda knew who he was up against, turns in, takes the place, and that is Tsunoda on 9-lap-old mediums, going past Bottas, who's been on that tyre for 17 tours of the circuit.
I'll tell you what's really disappointing as well for the AlphaTauris. Before that red flag came out, the cars did do 1 lap behind the safety car. That's what's put both Daniel Ricciardo and Oscar Piastri a lap down. So when they started from pit lane, they were already a lap down to the field. Right now, on track, Daniel Ricciardo is running right behind his teammate. Was right behind his teammate Yuki Tsunoda. Now he's behind Bottas, and he's got the pace to get by him too. They could potentially have raced their way back into the top 10 and back into the points with that car with Ricciardo. He's got the pace. He's just a lap down, so it's a bit frustrating for him. He's showing that they can do it. They're showing the potential the car had. Luckily, Yuki's doing a great job. He's now in the points, but a bit disappointing that Daniel could be there too.
Carlos Sainz has the run on Lewis Hamilton, pulls out of the slipstream and takes the second Mercedes that he's been trying to overtake as easy as you like as the first. 6th position for the Scarlet Ferrari. Carlos Sainz climbs past, and he's 4.5 seconds away from Lance Stroll in the second Aston Martin. Lando Norris last time around set the fastest lap of the race. Max Verstappen on his way to respond on this tour. There's a big bump that Sainz went over as he pulled out of the slipstream.
That's always hairy when you got the DRS open as well, missing a load of rear downforce, but Sainz managed to keep it in control effortlessly and sweep around the outside of Hamilton. So the Ferrari back into probably his rightful place in this Grand Prix, 6th. Can he do anything about Stroll? The Aston Martin pace so far today has been really good. In fact, this weekend it's been so much better, the Aston Martin. It looks like we're back in Montreal sort of spec, Aston Martin. They've been in the doldrums and they're back here, and this is the battle for third place. Alonso ahead of Perez. Stroll's only 5 seconds back from this. He's driving beautifully this weekend as well, and Sainz can try and join the party, but Ferrari, they've not been a heap better than Mercedes so far this weekend. Leclerc obviously retired on the formation lap. Opens the door for a good chance for both Alonso and Stroll today.
You'd have to say, on the evidence of the first 38 laps of this Grand Prix, this is Stroll's best day of the season so far, because he does have a 4th place finish from earlier in the season. That was via quite a lot of chaos on the restart in Australia, so he is running nice and competitively. It'll be interesting to monitor the gap between the Aston Martin and the Ferrari. Sainz trying to close that one down. This is our race leader, who set the fastest lap in response to Lando Norris's fastest lap last time around. So Norris dropped the bar down by 0.3 of a second, and then it was a really strong effort across the line from Verstappen to lower that bar even further. But all McLaren can do, all Norris can do, is hope that they push and push and push, and McLaren will be desperate that maybe there's a minor issue for the Red Bull out front. On the evidence of this year, though, there aren't many weaknesses with the car out front.
When you pit on the same lap with the same tyre and you don't have a pace advantage naturally, then you are literally hoping that he runs into trouble, aren't you? There's not much more. You have strategy in play in a 71-lap Grand Prix. The pace between the McLaren and the Red Bull, I mean, there were 14 thousandths difference in lap time on that last lap, and it was just the outlap that really opened that gap from 3.5 seconds to 5. But they're just on the same strategy. You wonder, was there something? Could they go long and then, or maybe hope for a safety car if they went longer? Those sort of things come into play.
So when you're bringing the tyres in, you've got to think deliberately slowly on the evidence of the rest of Lando's Grand Prix. when you're bringing it in slowly, if they knew they had to nurse the mediums into a certain window, is that maybe why they pitted on the same lap? Because they were like, well, any advantage we're going to get from the undercut, if we've got to bring the medium tyres slowly in, we're just going to lose it.
The undercut, I don't mind them not going for the undercut. I think it would have been a bold play. They would have come out in traffic for a long period of that as well. And you open the door for Alonso going long and being more competitive later on as well. But we hear so much box to overtake, which is basically pit unless your rival doesn't pit. There was 3.5 seconds between the top two when Lando pitted. You would have seen Max peel off to the left-hand side, and copying your rival just means that you've got no advantage. Now, he's got no disadvantage either, and maybe McLaren are happy just to shake hands and take second place with it, but that's how it feels. Whereas if you go long, you can chance your arm with something. Maybe it doesn't pay off, but he's got 13 seconds. He's under no pressure from behind. So it's a chance to just try something different. And we've seen countless times, you can go long and you find a safety car at the right period. Think just last week at Mexico, safety car just around the pit stop phase. Then suddenly Norris is in the lead of the race with a car that's not really that different on pace to Verstappen. And that's the sort of chance that I think they maybe had.
Bottas has come in to retire, a double retirement for Alfa Romeo. And Alfa Romeo do not need that at this stage of the season. They are in 9th position in the Constructors' Championship. You have Haas with one car left in the field, needs the race of attrition to continue. And we do have a lot of retirements today. Hulkenberg a couple of places away from the points, but he needs drama to hit those ahead. He hasn't got the pace today. Both Alfa Romeos out of the Grand Prix on lap 41.
They sort of ruled Williams out when Albon was crashing into the barriers on lap 1, but that now promotes Sargent to 11th. They might even fancy something out of this. And to illustrate how Mercedes are struggling today, the Gasly Express is catching them. Pierre Gasly now just 1 second behind George Russell, and Tsunoda's catching them as well. I mean, in pure pace, Mercedes, I mean, they're lucky that Leclerc's not in this one, but they might just struggle to score at the way they're going at the moment.
Yeah, we were talking about it afterwards yesterday and watching the sprint, and if that race had gone on and on and on, we did feel that Mercedes might have dropped out of the points, but today obviously we have strategy. You're not forced to run the same tyre. They've gone to the medium compound. Gasly has been on the podium around here. What a memorable moment when he was up against Lewis Hamilton side by side to the line to take his first ever Formula One podium. That really was an amazing sight back in 2019, emotional podium for the Frenchman as well, who'd gone through such a tough year, been demoted back down to the junior team, but had the power across the line. And then Hamilton had the penalty for hitting Alex Albon at one of these corners in the infield. And now Gasly's going to try and do it again. First, he's lining up Russell, then he's getting past Hamilton all over again.
The Alpines are on different setups. Gasly opted for a lower downforce configuration in this car. He was always hoping to be a little bit more raceable in today's Grand Prix, and now he has a chance to show that. This car has been really poor on straight line speed as well this year. They struggled in Monza, they struggled to pass the Haas in Mexico. That has been their Achilles heel, but with Gasly trimming out the wing, he might have a chance to catch the ailing Mercedes ahead that gets ever closer into turn 1.
You're going to have to give George Russell a wide berth, I think, after this Grand Prix. He's just slipping further and further back. And they knew it was going to be a long afternoon because they were working tactically from the very, very start of things. The gap earlier on for Ferrari was 4.5 seconds. Sainz, Stroll, it's about the same. Fernando Alonso has really responded well to the looming threat of Sergio Perez, and they're trading lap times. Sometimes Perez just a smidge ahead. Last time that was the case. Before, though, Alonso's been pumping in the lap times. The one great thing, sometimes you wonder, okay, how a driver's great. Alonso's consistency behind the wheel is something truly extraordinary. And he's calling on all of that experience today, trying to get back on the podium, something Alonso was really used to in the opening part of the year when he scored 6 podiums in the first 8 Grand Prix. He's only taken 1 in the last 11 races. That was back in the Dutch Grand Prix. Feels a long time ago now. This is Pierre Gasly with his foot pinned to the floor, trying to input the minimal steering to not scrub off the speed, but he's got more speed than the Mercedes ahead. He dips out of the slipstream and he says, thank you very much. That's not a contest. That is slam dunk Alpine past Mercedes, and they are having a day to forget and then some.
Oh, it's miserable for Mercedes. Russell can fight back into turn 4. I don't know if he's gone any morale left in this one to try and fight back. He has a little feint to the inside, but nothing doing there. Soul destroying for Mercedes. And the race pace, I mean, they wouldn't have really known. We only had 1 hour of practice this weekend. That's what a sprint format does for you. You don't know where you're going to be at. And the start of the sprint yesterday, they were so aggressive. Russell lunged Norris up at turn 10, took second place. Thought maybe if they had good race pace as they've had recently, they can go and chase Verstappen, and Russell was the winner here last year. They would have been so buoyant. But it quickly derailed, didn't it? And it's only got worse today. Russell now 9th, and Yuki Tsunoda is going to be the next car catching him.
Yeah, Tsunoda has the pace as well. I mean, he doesn't just have the pace, he's miles ahead at this stage of the Grand Prix. He's been on the medium tyre for 16 laps. Russell's been on the medium for 23. Last time around, 1:17.0 for George Russell. Last time around for Yuki Tsunoda, 1:15.8 for the car that has been in last place for the majority of the Constructors' Championship all the way through the season.
It's going to get there. Mercedes, so they've eked out this medium stint.
Yeah, so we can extend a little bit, but yeah, use the pace you've got now, it's good.
Pit window time coming for everyone now on that medium tyre still. They can fit in a set of softs and go to the end from here at a stretch with every lap that they can do at a sensible pace. They ease the management required in the final stint, and Alonso is doing a perfect job today. 2.7 seconds now the gap between the driver in third that we're on board with here and Sergio Perez behind in the Red Bull. Alonso driving back to his best. Stroll as well in the Aston Martin, showing the car is getting back towards its best as well, running similar pace to Perez in 5th position. Sainz making no inroads there. It's really much better showing from Aston Martin.
And one of the advantages that Fernando has as well is when they come into pit, he still has a set of sticker softs available to him. He has not run that. The likes of Lando Norris, he used his already. Perez didn't even have a set of sticker softs coming into this race. So the longer he extends the pace that he's got, he's opened that gap up to 3 seconds now over the Red Bull. It was down to about 1.3 at one point. That's the pace that the engineer was talking about. They upped the pace. He's controlling the tires still. He's pulling away from them, and he's got better tires at the next stop.
Check the brake, problem with the brakes.
Copy, we're looking.
Oh, not today, not for Pierre. When he was going so well, when he was motoring his way through, that has stalled at this stage, and well, real ill fortune if you can't fix that brake problem.
He's still running around at a sensible pace. He's cleared away from Russell for the moment. There he is, the Alpine heading up towards Ferradura. You're absolutely right, Hinch, with Ricciardo and Piastri. This is Daniel Ricciardo behind his teammate. There's Tsunoda, there's Ricciardo in the background, but he's a lap down. Because of that start, the way that they pitted and missed the laps of Ricciardo and Piastri, they're just going to get nothing out of this. But Ricciardo's actually showing really decent pace in the other AlphaTauri once again.
I don't know if it's gusty, but the car's so bad in the air.
Hamilton reporting on the radio what the timing page says as well. There is Yuki Tsunoda using, you can just see Russell using more of the road there. Marbles on the outside line and the fast sweepers that complete the lap. Russell heading to the pits. Yuki Tsunoda heading up a place, up to 9th position in the Grand Prix. And Russell comes in to get rid of those 25-lap-old medium tyres.
When you're suffering with tyre degradation, you usually become the first stoppers in each stint. There's going to be a used set of mediums then onto George Russell's car. Used set of softs, sorry, the Red Bull. And that'll be a management stint now for George. It's, as always, a little bit more demoralising when you spend a race looking in your mirrors and you're being overtaken. It's the only way that they can run this one. Mercedes, they've got to pit early, try and hold on to what they can before the tyres completely fall off the face of the earth. And Russell will have okay pace on this set for a few laps. He'll stay ahead of Tsunoda. He might even have a chance to undercut Gasly again. Then he's going to be into the mirrors for the rest of this Grand Prix.
We're on board with Lewis Hamilton, just coaxing the car through the corners.
Let's use the tyres now. I have been for the last 5 laps, dude.
It's so bad at the moment. Hamilton laughing on the radio. Here is Sergio Perez. Now, this is significant in the battle for the podium. He's come in, he's gone aggressive, and he has got a 2.3-second stop to use as well as he goes to the soft tyres.
Alonso's pace is really good, though. He's managed to up it as they get towards this pit stop window. He's almost done his personal best lap of the race on the last lap, Fernando. So Aston Martin will have to cover off Perez on the next lap. Mercedes pit Hamilton as well. No more juice left in his tyre, so there's mediums off and softs to go to the end. What about Alonso on this in lap? It's okay for now, it's going to be tight.
So he will need a response. Lewis Hamilton was talking about the fact that we're getting to the end of the season, which means he gets a new car next year. They've built a new one. They know what they need to do. They know what they need to rectify. And he says he can't wait to get rid of this year's Mercedes. On days like today, you can see why.
Perez has emerged in traffic. He's behind Tsunoda, so he's not able to hammer the outlap either. So this should be okay for Fernando Alonso, who's doing a very decent in-lap, assuming he's going to pit and cover off Perez. It's the only thing that Aston Martin can do surely on this lap.
I think Perez, we're just looking at the driver tracker, has he managed to get right now? He's still following Yuki Tsunoda. So even though both of those teams are owned by Red Bull, it's not exactly the coordination that you'd want. They're getting more and more greedy on the inside. Alonso obviously responding. So there's going to be a good slipstream here, and there's going to be DRS as a benefit, but Alonso now in the pits. High-pressure pit stop for Aston Martin. They need a podium to turn around morale. Alonso on pit exit. We stay on board with the man who's made the place, but Alonso looks like he's going to exit the pits. He's covered that one off, and if Sergio Perez wants the podium today, he's going to have to make the move on track. Talking of moves on track, Hamilton's finally going to get one. And he's passed Esteban Ocon. Ocon 15-lap-old soft tyres on the Alpine, and through goes the Mercedes driver.
Ocon might be the only driver on a three-stopper then, and he's coming to the end of this latest stint.
Should have gone to the hard tyre, man.
So he's got the soft tyre bolted on. The hard tyre is really, as you can see from the left-hand side of your picture, completely unpopular this weekend. It's a second slower, and you go to that if nothing else is working. In fairness, very little has been for Mercedes this weekend. This was the slam dunk pass. Hamilton using the DRS to get past the Alpine.
Yeah, that three-stop is not going to work for Ocon, is it? Compared to his teammate who's running on a two, and will emerge somewhere near him when he pits, Pierre Gasly. In fact, he has pitted, and he's right with him already. So Ocon is not having a great strategy today. They're right together, the two Alpines, and they're going to swap position surely this time around. There's your battle for third. Alonso and Perez, that will be third in the end once Stroll and Sainz pit. 3.1 seconds between them. 22 laps to go. It's going to be a tight one for Alonso, but his pace so far has been really good. There's the Alpine swapping.
So across the line we go with a new fastest lap of the Grand Prix for Pierre Gasly, who has done a 1:14.521, moves on, and the Alpine driver getting past Ocon and going after Hamilton. So this was the position he was in. Did radio a brake problem. Team will be checking the brake sensors they have available. Gasly saying thanks to his team and his teammate. Gasly trying to get past Hamilton, which was a state of play about 5 laps ago.
It's right with him and looking like he could make the move. The brake's obviously fine then. They managed to see what was up and it's not holding Gasly back. So Hamilton has made a pit stop, is running in 8th. Tsunoda's going to be going long and going to be attacking the Mercedes towards the end of this one as well. And Gasly now will have a chance in that lower downforce Alpine. Ocon having a tough race in the other car. Here comes Gasly.
So this is going to be a like-for-like moment then. Hamilton's been on these tyres for 2 laps. Gasly's been on these tyres for 2 laps. Hamilton reporting after being given the hurry up, I am pushing on these tyres. But after just one practice session, you had to lock in your settings for the entire weekend. And Mercedes do not have the speed to fight. We normally get quite excited on an overtake for an Alpine getting past the Mercedes, but that is not a contest at all. Gasly efficiently getting by, and Gasly will be hoping that he can move forward now and try and claim even more points today. Hamilton trying to duck back to the inside. Chastening day for Mercedes, though.
I think a spirit has been completely broken, as well as the tyres and the straight line speed. The driver's mouth just having dropped through the field, and now you've got the Alpines coming through. They're going to have an AlphaTauri with them by the end of the race. It's just when you're in there trying your best, you're trying to do what you can, but on a tough weekend, maybe can pick up some points at the end of this, but it's a tough one.
I mean, his DRS still not catching him.
Yep, understood, Lewis.
And then the engineers are broken because they've been on the receiving end of the radio the whole race. Oh, get out of this triple header. Vegas is up next.
Have you had days like this? Jolien, have you had days where you're like, let's just get to the checkered flag, this one's a write-off?
Sadly, yeah. Sadly, I have. Sometimes you're in the first stint, you're thinking, oh, I don't have the tyre life today, I'm struggling for pace. It's a long race, I hope something magic happens to bring me back in, but this can be a long one.
Hinch, any memories that spring to mind in this category?
I mean, the nightmares, I don't know if I call them memories. I mean, it's just par for the course. Every driver's had a day like this, and you go into a race with eternal optimism, but sadly, as early as 2-3 laps in, you can sometimes be faced with this realization that it's just not going to be your day. But you have to hold on. You never know what can happen. Weird things, safety cars, mechanical issues, contact. I mean, that's one of the things I've always admired about Fernando Alonso. He had entire seasons where it was like that, and he just never seemed to give up. And you watch him in a Grand Prix, he was still absolutely on the ragged edge till the end of every single race, even when he was way down. So it's part of it, part of the sport.
He's managed to stay quite positive as well, Alonso, given Aston Martin's slump in the second half of the year. And you put him in a position to take a podium, and he's bang on it once again. The gap is less than a second and a half between Alonso and Perez again, so he's got a lot of fighting still to do to take it. But he is resilient, one word that is synonymous with Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, Fernando Alonso, just to back up what Hinch was saying, once went up on the podium with Jenson Button as a laugh as McLaren drivers after they were both knocked out in Q1. So he has had to wait a very long time. He's trying to stand on the podium at this circuit for the first time in a decade. Sergio Perez is the driver who is the real threat. You saw Carlos Sainz come into the pits to make his final scheduled stop of the day. He's dropped down behind Yuki Tsunoda. This is the stop for Ferrari. Hitting the marks. The jack lifts the car up in the air, and sparks coming off the right rear there.
That was a threaded wheel nut for a moment. They managed to get it on in the end. It wasn't too tardy a stop either for Ferrari, considering. It's sort of like the Bottas pit stop from Monaco, the famous one when Mercedes never did manage to change the wheel. They got away with that one, Ferrari.
Lance Stroll has come into the pits. He's having a fine day. He is really competitive in that Aston Martin today. Hits the marks, looking for a clean stop. You are now looking for the battle for third position. It's getting close now. That's 4.3 seconds for Aston Martin. Not entirely what they needed. That's going to give a sniff to Carlos Sainz. He went early for the fresh rubber. That's going to give him a benefit. They've added 2 seconds on to the pit stop time that they would want, and Sainz will hope for an opportunity there. That's what he's looking for. It's still Stroll who's got track position, but there is an opportunity now for the Ferrari driver.
These two have just done their best lap of the race as well. Alonso and Perez. Perez was 0.6 quicker than Fernando Alonso. He's right on the cusp of DRS. No more pit stops expected in this Grand Prix unless there's a safety car or more shenanigans with 17 laps to go. So Alonso can get his elbows out and just try and keep the track position. Perez will have to pass him on circuit to take the podium, but he is now just under a second away.
This is going to be the slow stop for Stroll. Needed a clean one, but 4.3 seconds is not what you're looking for. One of his better days of the season. You see, they had to hold the car and back into the Grand Prix, but now with Carlos Sainz for company, but it's not as close as this battle. Sergio Perez has raced here more times than any other circuit on the calendar without scoring a podium finish. 11 times he's turned up to this Grand Prix, and he got close a couple of years ago. Great, long, classic midfield Sergio Perez run. Max Verstappen was the driver who got past him that day, denied him that opportunity, finished 4th. That remains his best result around this circuit. It's a bird on the track. They're getting an amazing view of the battle for 3rd. Slightly too close for comfort, I imagine.
Even closer than you were in practice, Hinch, down at turn 4.
Yeah, got me beat by a little bit there, but importantly on that last straightaway down there into turn 4, Perez had just got into DRS range. He's fallen a little bit back through the 2nd sector. Crucial to get it obviously down the front straight. It just seems like the Red Bull on these softs has the advantage. I think we saw the advantage going to Fernando, and the Aston Martin on the mediums was able to pick up that pace, pull that gap, but now as they come onto the detection zone, is it gonna be within a second? He's just past it. I'm not sure where it was on track that happened. Let's see. No, he was just outside by hundredths of a second.
Alonso's digging in the middle sector. He does his best middle sector. He does his best final sector of the Grand Prix, and he keeps Perez, crucially, outside of that DRS range on the long straight. We know the Red Bull's got a good straight line speed. It's got a brilliant top end. They can pass with ease when they get close, so Alonso cannot afford to let Checo get close. He has the DRS, having had a nice slipstream on the main straight down towards turn 4, and now Alonso's got to get to work in the twisty infield and just try and build that gap again in the fight for third place. The top two, it's hunky-dory for them. 7.8 seconds now between Verstappen and Norris. They're on the same strategy, and they are way clear of this battle. They don't have to worry about these two at all. They can worry about each other a little bit, but there's no need for either of them to pit just now. If Verstappen pits, then he opens the door for Norris to benefit with the safety car. Norris has got no gain to pit either. He cannot undercut Verstappen from here, so they'll just keep going so long as their tyres can stay in decent nick.
We head to the crucial turn number 12. Sergio Perez hasn't been on the podium since the Italian Grand Prix. He's only scored 21 points in the last 5 Grand Prix. He's trying to take 15 for his tally today as he looks to finish second in the World Championship for the first time in his career. He was third last year. He's just set the fastest tour of the circuit, and he is trying to get past for a podium that would mean a lot. The driver who fought through from the original starting position of 9th on the grid today, he knows he has the pace. That's the good news. The bad news is two-time champion of the world and master defender when he needs to. Fernando Alonso is directly ahead of him. Yuki Tsunoda has just come into the pits in the AlphaTauri. Tsunoda running a 29-lap stint on that medium tyre. He can go aggressive as he moves on. And now further on, talking of stops, our race leader is in with 15 laps to go. And Max Verstappen brings it down once again. This was the last hurdle for him to clear. It's a 2.5-second stop. Lando Norris is the race leader in the McLaren, and Verstappen heads back out onto the circuit. They will wait for Norris to reply. Norris has the option of a used medium and a used soft when he comes into the pits. That is the wonderful picture there of Perez and Alonso from a different angle of this circuit, celebrating its 50th, celebrating the occasion of a 50th Brazilian Grand Prix. We used to race in Rio, we raced here as well. It used to be a much longer version that snaked round, but this layout always provides us with action into turn 1, into turn 4. Perez in the DRS, looking for the weaknesses of Alonso, slightly wider as he makes his way through the infield, makes his way through turn number 10. Alonso will be determined. Not on the podium since back in Zandvoort, the man who was basically always on the podium at the first part of the year. 6 out of 8 races to start the campaign. He was on the rostrum, returning there, getting 100 career podiums in the process as well. And Sergio Perez, well, you know the backstory. He's been under enormous pressure. The man who went all in for the win at his home event. He was saying at the start of the weekend he was downbeat, he felt sad for a day, he regrouped and he knows he's got a big opportunity now. The team will be willing him past Fernando Alonso. Here's our race leader, Verstappen, setting mighty sectors around this racetrack. Norris continuing on. There's an 11-second gap at the moment between the top two, and Jodien was talking about this earlier. The benefit you get, the lost time, if there was a safety car or virtual safety car, at this stage is 11 seconds. So as soon as Verstappen is in that, you would expect Lando Norris to come into the pits, as you were in this battle for P3.
It's just interesting watching this battle. Julian, you've raced around this racetrack, but Fernando seems to take this very wide line through turn 12. You sort of mentioned it there, Alex. Is that just he's battling a little bit more understeer? He doesn't want to put as much angle into the car, trying to get that straight run off up the hill there, but you could just watch it every time they come through 12. Checo right up against the apex curve. Fernando consistently half a car width, almost a full car width off the apex.
Yeah, I kept thinking he's just losing the rear tyres and struggling to get the car turned in. We've seen other drivers, Gasly, clambering over that curb on the apex to try and open up the corner a little bit. It's a strange technique to just miss the apex. But with the way that the track falls away sometimes on the exit, it allows you a smoother run through the corner, and you can squeeze on the throttle. And the exit is so crucial. We've got one more corner to go, and they will go again as Russell comes in to end his miserable day after 59 laps.
Yeah, retiring the car after seeing something on the data, risk of imminent failure. George Russell retires from the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. He was going to tumble out of the points anyway. And that is real disappointment on a long day for Mercedes. They'll regroup. That days like that will just increase their determination to fight back to the front. It's down to 0.3 of a second now for Sergio Perez. By the time he gets to the apex of turn 2, goes through the Curva do Sol and makes his way down the Reta Aposta to turn number 4. Alonso will know where to place the car. He will know off the back of the sprint yesterday where he's able to respond, the up and under that we've seen a couple of times as well. All of that information from yesterday and the longest ever Formula One career is going to be plugged into this battle.
Yeah, if there's one driver who I don't think is just going to succumb to pressure, it's going to be Fernando Alonso. So many podiums through the years, so many podiums this year as well. This is not a rare opportunity in the grand scheme of 2023 for Alonso, even if it hasn't come for a while. Race leaders in.
So Lando Norris waited to see whether he got lucky with the timing of a safety car or virtual safety car. Max Verstappen got inside that 11-second window, got it down to 8 seconds, and so McLaren come in. And what a terrible start to the season that team had. Really just so disappointing until they brought the update in Austria, and since then they've been the second highest scoring team, only behind Red Bull. It looks like he's on for another podium finish today. It won't be a trip to the top step unless something dramatic happens. And talking of dramatic on the racetrack, that's the closest that Sergio Perez has got. Aston Martin versus Red Bull. Both of these drivers want to return to form. They want a taste of the champagne at the end. DRS in both zones now. Alonso will hang on to it. That's a dart to try and frighten him off the road. That won't happen with Fernando Alonso.
He was checking the mirrors early coming out of turn 3. He knows the pressure's going to be on now, and he's having to defend from Perez. This is where Checo wants to put him. Off the racing line coming into the first corner and open the opportunity again into turn 4. 11 laps to go. He's been just tantalisingly away in the braking zone, but that was the first time that Perez has had an opportunity. Alonso coming the inside, that's the sensible move, and still managed to get the car stopped for the apex to get the exit. He's way wide of the apex though, again at turn 10, and then we're coming up towards turn 12, the final corner, where he's been away from the apex for quite some time. That is exactly what we see again, as you described, Hinch. And we go on board with Checo, another run coming up the hill.
Well, it looked like understeer city the first time we went on board, but it is quite clearly on the evidence of the lap after lap after lap. Alonso just choosing a different route, and at the moment, even though he checks the left-hand mirror, the Aston Martin stays ahead. There's going to be a big opportunity as we go down to 4.
The crucial thing is not defending thin air. Alonso checking the mirrors. He's got to decide when it's worth compromising his line through these first corners to stop Perez coming down the inside, and when it's not, when you've got to just stay on the racing line and stop having to defend then into turn 4. And that was good management there from Alonso into turn 1. He had just enough margin to not deviate from the racing line, have a smooth run through the first 3 corners, and he can hold on for another lap. It's going to be like that now for the rest of the race.
Jens, tell me about the difference in approach when you've been slightly out of form, when you know that you've got the pace to be able to get by. How does that caution manifest behind the steering wheel if you've been on a slightly tough run like Checo has?
Remember with Checo, he's had a lot of racing incidents recently as well. It's not just that his pace has been away, but he had a collision at the start in Mexico. He had a collision in Qatar. He had collisions in Japan. It's been quite a lot of racing incidents that he's been involved in, or even more that he's been penalised for as well. So you've got to be that little bit cautious, I think, if you're Sergio Perez in this instance. He doesn't want to have a lock-up and just drill straight into the side of the Aston Martin, causing yet another one. But on the other hand, that's a podium up for grabs, and it's a great chance to alleviate the pressure if he can make it through. What do you reckon, Hinch?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. You know, you when you're in this kind of position, you've got such a confidence. You know that you're driving well. You know the car's got the capability. You want to go for that last little bit. You're riding high, but at the same time, yeah, you really cannot afford a mistake. But just looking at how Sergio's been driving today, the kind of body language in the race car, I think he's in a really good spot. I think he's not going to go for a move he knows is got a high potential of ending in disaster. It's too risky. He's driving very well. He's racing smart. I think he's got the car. I think the opportunity's still coming, and I'd be surprised if he wasn't able to get by at this point. I mean, look, Fernando Alonso, probably the toughest driver to get by, but I just think the advantage is in his core right now.
He pitted a lap earlier than Alonso. They've got a reasonable stint to make these soft tyres last as well, and so the tyre life is more in the Aston Martin's hands. When you're sitting for too long in this window within a second, you slide around, you damage the tyres as well, and Checo himself was referencing that yesterday when he didn't have the life of his teammate at the end of the sprint. He's dropping back on this lap. This isn't going to be an opportunity here. I think when you're in Alonso's position, it's a bit scary when you see a fast car coming up behind you. You always think, oh no, it's gonna happen. With every lap that you keep in there, you gain a bit of confidence, you get into a rhythm, and the pressure, the immediate panic of the situation starts to reduce. You get more comfortable.
And even just looking at the gaps when they hit that DRS zone coming out of turn 12 onto the front straight there, it's slowly getting a little bit bigger. It's further and further back that Perez is trying to have to come from. So it might be tough at this point now. He might have used the best of the tires, because remember, Alonso started this stint on a sticker set, a brand new set of those softs where Checo's were used.
We did see in the last stint Perez roar up to the back of Fernando, and then Fernando just eat that gap before we got to the final stops. Just to update you on the progress of everyone else, Perez is 0.8 of a second away, but I don't think he's in lunge territory. We'll find out in a couple of meters' time. That is Norris currently in second position, down to turn number 1, and it's 0.8 of a second. It can go down in the DRS, but Stroll has stabilised the gap. It came down to 2 seconds after that tough pit stop, so Stroll has built that gap back up, and he's looking to bring the car home, one of his very best days of the season. If you take out the chaos at the end of the Australian Grand Prix, I'd say that overall it's probably his best run in any Grand Prix this year.
Best weekend generally, isn't it? Qualified third, was brilliant. He's been on Alonso's pace this weekend, which is really standout. Alonso's done the job today so far. He's got still more to do as we jump back on board with Perez staring at the back of Fernando Alonso, but he has been back to his brilliant best in race trim today, Fernando. But the pace between the two Aston Martin teammates has been as close as it's been all season really this weekend. The other battles, Hamilton stabilised on the soft tyre. The Mercedes has been better on that tyre than it was in the middle stint on the mediums. And while Tsunoda is a second a lap, 7/10 a lap quicker, that charge is just halting the AlphaTauri. So he looks more settled in a lowly 8th today. And so it really is just this battle for third that we've got left on the table.
So George Russell retired with the power unit oil temperature issue that they saw. Bottas went out with an issue with the power unit as well. It was a water leak for Joe being reported from the pits. Magnussen caught up along with Alexander Albon early in the Grand Prix at that turn. Start Albon into the barriers, Magnussen out as well, and Charles Leclerc lost it after a failure on the Ferrari on the formation lap. 14 still running. Ricciardo, Piastri, Hülkenberg and Sargent are 1 lap down. The rest of the drivers on the left-hand side are scoring points. Still, Sergio Perez is forced to study the rear of that Aston Martin.
He'll have studied that the Aston Martin had a little slide as Fernando jumped on the throttle though coming out of turn 1, and that'll put a smile on Perez's face, just seeing that maybe he's starting to use the tyre a little bit as well. And having just dropped away for a couple of laps, the Red Bull gets closer again. Maybe he's just been recharging, cooling down momentarily, and now he can go on the offensive again through the middle sector towards turn 10. Tricky right-hander, easy to have a lock-up, make a mistake, but we're not going to see that from Fernando Alonso. And Perez still big in his mirrors.
Lando Norris currently has the bonus point for fastest lap. He said that on lap 61, and then I asked these two a question about behind the wheel when you're in the situation, and just wanted to confirm that when you ask these two questions you get detailed answers. It's a lot of fun. Is it going to be fun for Sergio Perez by the end of the Grand Prix? Is it going to be Fernando Alonso with a drive? You know he's savouring this. You know that every lap that he stays ahead, he is absolutely loving it. He is trying to add to his tally of podiums this year. He is trying to keep Sergio Perez behind once again. Easier said than done though. That is the RB19. That is one of the best cars ever built in Formula One history. But you need a certain car to suit your driving style. And Sergio has been very clear across this year that he can't quite get it to speak to him in the way that Max Verstappen devastatingly has done. The race leader 8.4 seconds ahead of him.
If you wanted a track to try and make a pass on for the last 5 laps, it's a dump me anywhere and I've got to make a move in the last 5 laps with a slightly quicker car.
Yeah.
Maybe put me in Interlagos. It is one of the great racetracks in the world, and we saw it yesterday, the amount of overtaking. We've seen it today as well. Mercedes on the receiving end of much of it. Perez has been on a charge earlier on, and now that charge is halted. But this is the sort of circuit where you can make the pass, and that'll keep him motivated right to the end, as he will get the DRS again as they come on to lap 67 of 71. Still looks a little far back though.
Alonso trying to show that Aston Martin are still punching in this championship. Sergio Perez trying to prove that the doubters, well, they can forget about it. There's a lot of people who'd love to put themselves in that car, in that team, the reigning Constructors' champions, but he is trying to make the move just to turn the volume down on the narrative that has been running all the way to the second half of the season. You can see last time around, Lando Norris just getting that gap down. Do expect Max Verstappen to try and respond for that bonus point of fastest lap.
He just has, but he's missed it by 0.3 on the last lap. That'll probably carry on, and there'll be another chance for those two. But haven't they been in a league of their own this weekend? I think Norris has done a great job to stay just 8 seconds, just over 8 seconds down on Verstappen. They're well clear now of this battle for third. Alonso's also been superb. Perez has been on the charge. Remember, he was unlucky in qualifying as well. Thought he could have been on the front row. The rain fell at the end of Q3, meant that he was down in 9th and had to put on this charge. He's still going for it.
And it's a good reminder that Perez, no fault of his own. Sometimes he's not been able to get the car to rotate the way he wanted it to and has struggled for one lap pace. That was not the case on Friday. It was just a change of conditions at the worst possible time. One Red Bull was at the head of the queue to set a lap, the other one finding itself further along the 2.6 miles, and as a result he had to bail out of it after Oscar Piastri spun in front of him. Worst case scenario, he would have been third on the grid, and Lando Norris would have had a much bigger fight for that second place today. But you're absolutely right, Jolien, what you say. Verstappen and Norris just have had the measure of this circuit. Really encouraging for Norris as well, who hasn't always had the easiest time around this circuit, and is looking for a best ever result around Interlagos today with P2. Norris heading on to that unfortunate total of the joint most podiums in Formula One history without a victory. But McLaren, if you consider their horrible start to the season, where they did not look competitive in any way at all, it's been a total sea change, and this is Lando Norris on for his 5th podium in the last 6 races. And he continues to move along. 8.2 seconds between the leader, on for another win, a dominant victory in Formula One. He's heading to a sweeter 17th after his 16th last time out. And Perez running out of miles in this Grand Prix. Both of these drivers not just chasing another podium, but chasing a satisfaction of either having defended or passed late on.
I have no target. Like the left panel is not responding. Understood.
I mean, if that leads to some sort of retirement for Sainz, look who's running in P11, guys.
Yeah, Logan Sargent promoted after a couple of disqualifications in Austin, looking to finish 10th on the road. That last lap time for Sainz, not horrible, but another one reporting problems. It's a long time ago that we heard from Pierre Gasly issuing that warning about the brakes. He seems to have found a way to answer that one. Hamilton keeping Tsunoda and Ocon behind, but down in 8th for a man who once overtook absolutely everyone in both the sprint and the Grand Prix to win here in 2021, having the opposite of that day. But now, is there an opportunity for Sergio Perez? He knows that he's running out of time here. Are we going to get another drag race to the line late on? This is the best run so far for Perez. He's deploying everything he's got at this stage of the Grand Prix, diving to the inside. He's got the inside line. Sergio Perez went brave, went bold, and gets 3rd place in the race.
He'll have to fight back up to turn 4, I think, although he's managed to stretch his legs through 3. Alonso picks up the DRS, and he can attack again.
How aggressive is Fernando Alonso going to be? Goes for the inside move. It's defensive for Perez, who makes the corner, and the Mexican fans in the grandstand are cheering for him. Will we go side by side up the hill? Perez has got the advantage. Alonso ducking every which way, tries to hang on to it, but Perez, late on the penultimate tour of the Grand Prix, finally gets by the green Aston Martin, and Alonso's stout defence is ended.
He left enough space on the inside, and he tried to cover it, but it was just a little bit too late. So he's been checking those mirrors regularly, every straight for the last 10, 12 laps. Finally, he didn't quite call it right, needed to cover the inside a bit earlier, gave Checo that space, and Perez, once he was on the inside, was not about to give that one up, having haunted the Aston Martin for so long. Finally he's through. I wonder if Alonso could have committed really hard to the inside at turn 4 as well. Checo held the middle, but it wasn't to be.
Here we go. Is there a chance to respond for Fernando Alonso? forces a defensive move. That's not what Perez needs. If he goes off the racing line, he could be vulnerable to 4. And all the while, Max Verstappen is nearly in the final corners of the last lap. Alonso is going to get the run down to turn number 4. This is going to be super aggressive between the two of them. Alonso's fought his way back through. What a move, Fernando Alonso, on the last lap, and the crowd absolutely loved it. The old master takes back the place. The current master of every driver in the field, the reigning world champion, is on his way to win number 17 of the season. Max Verstappen wins the Sao Paulo Grand Prix with a superb drive across the line. It will be second place for Lando Norris, but the question mark we have, the question mark that remains, is who will stand on the podium with them. Will it be Fernando Alonso? Will it be Sergio Perez? Perez will try to respond. There's that wide line from the Aston Martin driver time and time again. He will go up through the gears. They're both planted to the floor, and you have just seen a brilliant race from the top two, but it's going to be Fernando Alonso across the line. He gets close. He just hangs on in a superb finish to the line. It was decided for third place by 53 thousandths of a second after an entire Grand Prix distance. And look what it means to Aston Martin. Fernando Alonso on the podium for the 8th time this season, but surely that is the sweetest one of all. He hung on by the barest margin, 500ths of a second after an enthralling Grand Prix. The Red Bull got closer and closer and closer and ran out of road. There was the defensive move. What a battle between these two.
Absolutely superb. I really didn't see Fernando coming back once Checo had made the move, but he managed to stay close. And I think Perez had just used everything from the battery the lap before, so he had nothing left to defend, and Fernando managed to keep it. Then it was vice versa, roles reversed to the line, and that couldn't have been closer, could it? Alonso keeps it by a sniff. One more corner and I think he's done there, but brilliant drive. Beautiful stuff from both.
Well done, Max. Fantastic job yet again, mate. Well done.
Well done, Max. That was absolutely clinical once again. Well done. Another Brazilian victory.
Yeah, thanks, guys. That was, I think, a very good performance. Very nice, good race, well executed, good pit stops.
Wow, what an ending to the Grand Prix. Just like 2019, then it was Gasly, then it was Hamilton. That day, it was Gasly hanging on as well. But Alonso, it looked for all the world like he was fine. And then in the final 100 meters of the Grand Prix, Perez, absolute rocket ship, and so unlucky not to take third on the line.
I think it's all about energy management. I think Perez used everything from the electric motor, 160 extra horsepower with a couple of laps to go, used everything, deployed the whole lot, couldn't recharge it. Alonso then had his turn to get back and managed to sweep back into to turn 4. Then, of course, there's one more chance around this circuit. We've seen it before, as you said, on the long run, up the hill. Perez used everything he had, came alongside with the DRS, and brilliant battle between the two.
That was sensational. You know who's at the front of the field in Formula One 2023? His name is Max Verstappen. He wins when he wants, and he's in the arms of his team once again. Lando Norris with a superb start in the first launch off the line that we had before the red flag, doing all of his heavy lifting. But you have to say, that was wonderful stuff from Fernando Alonso, and you thought once Perez gets by, good night. Perez waited, deployed it well. The problem was you're looking at one of the greats in Formula One history. Two-time champion, doesn't begin to tell you how good Fernando Alonso is.
He kept so calm, didn't he? And what was crucial was making sure Perez was driving defensive lines once he took the place. So he kept him defensive at 4, kept him defensive all the way through into Ferradura, the right-hander of 6, got him jittery in towards turn 8 as well, and that meant he could stay close and close enough to make the pass again when they had DRS, and he had that chance up towards turn 4. Brilliant stuff, really smart work from Fernando, holding on in what is definitely, undoubtedly, the inferior car.
Can we race here every week? Every single time we turn up here, something magical seems to happen. The driver of the day is Fernando Alonso. But What a performance from Lando Norris is the driver of the day. Fernando Alonso with that performance to raise the volume. Sorry if that tested your speakers a little bit at home, but that was Formula One and its absolute finest.
Should have been Alonso, shouldn't it?
Yeah, everyone's trying to vote again, but it happened in the final meters of the race. That's how Max took the win. What a performance from everyone in the top three.
Norris is getting driver of the day every week at the moment. Oh, he's been brilliant again this weekend and keeping Verstappen honest in every stint. 8 seconds the final margin in 71 laps. That's just a 10th per lap that the McLaren is losing. It's really tight margins.
Hinch, you've got 5 seconds to sum up what you thought about those final laps.
God, I love Interlagos. That's all I have to say.
Nicely done, my friend. Fantastic. Oh, well, I thought we were going to classify the order, but we're just going to look at this wonderful place some more. Built in 1938, and it's just provided us with endless battles. It means, James Hinchcliffe, you can expand upon your sentence.
No, I mean, look, the way this racetrack is laid out, consistently you just see some incredible battles, and you have got to give credit to both those guys for that final podium position. It was a great move from Checo with 1 to go. And like you say, Julian, I think you're absolutely spot on, all about energy management there. But Fernando Alonso, it doesn't matter how many days old, years old he is, the number of Grand Prix he's run, he is so crafty, he is so wily, and just such a good wheel-to-wheel racer. Both guys deserving, but obviously with the, as you say, with the inferior car to hold out that kind of pressure for so long, absolutely incredible.
This has been Max Verstappen's year. Underline it again, underline it a third time. But how good has it been to see Fernando Alonso sent back to the front, resuming his position, battling for those type of podium places. Over 100 podiums in Formula One now, 8 for the season, and his first podium in a decade here in Interlagos. The top 3 are speaking to Mark Webber.
Max Verstappen, another victory, the 17th victory of the year. It was relatively straightforward, built off a beautiful qualifying session, which was tricky. Got the pole with that on Friday. Run us through your afternoon, mate.
Yeah, I think, the starts were very important today. Both of them were, I think, very good. And after that, the whole race was about the management of the tires. I think we were good on any tire, but I think especially that middle stint, we could create a bit of a gap. And I thought that was very strong there.
It must have been quite lonely at times, though, mate. It's a long old race here, isn't it? 71 laps. Did you, any mice in the machine? Your mind start to drift on other topics, or you managed to keep it all together?
It all looked quite good, but with the high deck around here, you were constantly correcting the cars, so your focus always needed to be there. But yeah, luckily it worked out great today.
So a few weeks off now, mate. Vegas. You must be looking forward to that one. First time there, street race racing at night.
Yeah, it's
pretty
very
incredible.
different to this one. I mean, a lot colder. Let's see what the track grip will do, street circuit. So yeah, new for everyone, and I think it will be full of surprises for sure.
Congratulations, mate. Another victory. Well done. Lando Norris, another podium, mate. Another podium. Well done.
Thank you.
Yourself and McLaren, absolutely on fire. You executed that beautifully. The starts were, it was tricky. Obviously, there was 2 different starts. Run us through your afternoon, mate. How do you feel it went?
Very good. Couldn't have gone much better, to be honest. Good pace, similar to yesterday, which is the main thing, and a much better start in the beginning to get from 6th to 2nd.
Yeah, there it is.
Which was a nice surprise, but my start yesterday was not so good, so I tried to work on it, and it got better. But then the second start, I was just a little bit aggressive on it. So still happy. P2 is as good as we can get nowadays, and for the time being, but very happy for the rest of it.
Absolutely. Was there any part of the race where you felt that there was still a chance that Max might, leave the door open for you at some point in terms of timing?
I mean, there's little bits where the tires come back to you a little bit, and then you can push on, but Max always seemed to have an answer to everything, which is a shame. But fair play to him. He drove a good race. So tough with the wind conditions and everything, but P2 is a good result.
Congratulations. Another fantastic drive, mate. And cometh a man, cometh the hour. Here he is. Mate, there's no doubt about you. You just never give up. That was an extraordinary last few laps. You're under so much pressure for so long from Sergio in obviously in a far quicker car behind you. DRS who's trying to manipulate the move here and there. So Run us through those last 2 laps, mate. That was absolutely special.
Yeah, for me it was like 30 laps that I had the pressure from Checo. But yeah, when he passed me 2 laps to the end, I thought, okay, this is gone. The podium is not possible anymore. But he braked a little bit late into 1 and said, okay, I go for it into 4. And yeah, this is a phenomenal result for the team. We've been struggling for a couple of months already, especially the last 2 events with 2 retirements. So this podium is for them, for everyone in the factory. And yeah, we keep fighting until the last lap.
Absolutely. And just quickly about the turnaround, as you say, some of the developments have been a bit tricky, but this race looks like being strong in all conditions, and it's a big result for the team.
Yeah, obviously we're still learning about the car. You know, these cars are so complex aerodynamically. So yeah, we've been experimenting a little bit to find the direction for next year, without forgetting this year that we're still competing. So happy for this result, and now to Vegas.
Well done, mate. There's life in the old dog yet. Fantastic race. Really, really special.
Thank you to Mark Webber. Interviewing Fernando Alonso. And let's listen in to the debrief.
You were fast in the first 6 or 7 laps.
Yeah, took me.
Yeah, it took them 4. I was hoping
something
else happened.
No, you took it at the last moment. It was really interesting because I thought once Checo passed you, I thought, you know, that's it. That first start.
Maybe the red flag was not needed.
No.
I mean,
First start was amazing.
We were going through the pit lane, so there is not much risk in order to keep excited in those cars.
Easy. You went DRS the last couple of when you got past people? Yeah, once or twice, yeah. So like Max's traffic, it's not that fishy, and I just see you pulling away. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah, I think the 2 cars. You must have DRS. The Alpine and the Williams must gonna be by before 6. Block.
Well, what a top 3. They all earned their place there. Verstappen imperious this season. Norris with his 7th podium finish of the campaign. Fernando Alonso with his 8th. But by far the most spectacular. That is a niche poster you have brought, my friend, in the middle of the crowd. That is a baby-faced Valtteri Bottas with a moustache. Photoshopped on it. Kelly Piquet, Max Verstappen's girlfriend, underneath the podium, ready to celebrate for the 17th time this year at the end of a Sunday. It is going to be a different type of event next time out. The lights going out on Saturday in Las Vegas. It's going to be an unusual one. You see the sign there on the left-hand side. That's where we're heading next. But let's give the moment to Fernando Alonso as he climbs onto the podium with another extraordinary drive. A 7th podium. Great stuff for Lando Norris. But whilst the others fight, there is one man who comes out on top time and time again. For the 17th time this year, Max Verstappen will hear his national anthem. Max Verstappen hearing the Austrian national anthem for his team and the Dutch national anthem. He has been beaten just once in the last 16 Grand Prix as the mayor of Sao Paulo lifts the trophy aloft and celebrates once again. 21 wins for the season, all categories, sprint and Grand Prix. Domination on a level that even Lewis Hamilton, Michael Schumacher, the great Jim Clark, the wonderful Ayrton Senna couldn't dream of. This is a new standard being set.
He's just destroyed the soul of everyone else. Even Lando saying, did you ever think you could beat him? It's only 3.5 seconds back in the first stint. It was close, but no, we didn't think Max would make a mistake. He never does.
Mark Webber knows what it's like to stand on the top step of this podium. He gives his old team the Constructors' Trophy. Busy man is Mark, interviewing them, handing out trophies. And Lando Norris once again. So he goes to this mark of 13 podiums without a victory in Formula One, but today was another drive to say that day will definitely come. The moment will arrive for a driver who seems to be improving. It was an overtaking fest 1 week ago. It was a contention for the victory. He led a lot of laps in Austin. He can be very happy with his triple header. But Fernando Alonso, when he eventually ends the longest ever Formula One career, will reflect on his 106th podium with a huge smile on his face. And he is so pumped up, deservedly so. Well, what a Grand Prix. Dramatic at the first turn, dramatic to the last moment of the last lap. Formula One at its finest. We have seen a demonstration run brilliantly converted from pole to the victory for Max Verstappen. We have seen the continued story of Lando Norris getting closer and closer to that maiden win, and we've seen that you might get by Fernando Alonso, but you might not stay ahead. The oldest driver in the field, deploying all of that experience to take another podium finish, his 8th of the season, and the most spectacular run to the line. Interlagos, you've done it again. An amazing crowd, a record crowd, and it has been spectacular stuff all the way through. Sprint Grand Prix, we've had action, we've enjoyed it. It's been a really intense triple header. There's been lots to talk about. Formula One teams are getting closer to Max Verstappen, getting closer to Red Bull, but they keep finding answers. And how sweet will that sparkling wine be for Aston Martin? Let's hope that they scooped it up. Don't drop. No chance. Not when their main man delivered again. It was also a great drive from Lance Stroll. 5th place, his 2nd best result of the season. Our timing page says Sergio Perez 0.0 behind. So you have to look to the second one we have here that has a few decimal places in the end. 53 thousandths of a second. The top 3 have completed their afternoon's work, and what fun it was to watch as well. We leave the crowd celebrating on the main straight, and we confirm the order after 71 laps of Sao Paulo. Max Verstappen with a 17th Grand Prix victory of the season. Lando Norris with a return to the podium, and Fernando Alonso fought like a lion at the end there to get himself up to 3rd. Great drive by Sergio Perez, back in form, just missing out by the finest margins. Lance Stroll with a good day for Aston Martin, then it's Sainz, Gasly. Tough day for Hamilton and Mercedes. More points for Yuki Tsunoda and AlphaTauri. Esteban Ocon completing the point scorers. Logan Sargent had a strong drive to 11th, and it was Hülkenberg in 12th. Ricciardo and Piastri did manage to resume the Grand Prix, but finished laps down. And then you had George Russell retiring the car, as did Bottas, Zhou Guanyu, Charles Leclerc off on the formation lap, Kevin Magnussen, Alex Albon out at turn 1. We move to the driver's standings in the World Championship. Max Verstappen now on 524. That is going to be the largest ever winning margin in the history of the championship. Sergio Perez in 2nd, Lewis Hamilton not having the best day, so good day for Perez in that regard. Alonso hanging on to 4th with that fine move. He's battling Lando Norris, who finished ahead of him. Then it's Sainz, Leclerc, Russell, Piastri, and Lance Stroll now back up into the top 10 of the championship. Pierre Gasly in 11th, and then it's Ocon, Albon, Tsunoda, Bottas, Hülkenberg, Ricciardo, Zhou Guanyu, Kevin Magnussen, and Liam Lawson. And then also Logan Sargent on the next page with a point to his name. There you go, there's the confirmation. The 21st and last point scorer of the season. To the constructors' standings, interesting pictures. We head into the final races. You've got Red Bull, then Mercedes, Ferrari and McLaren. Aston Martin not giving up the fight though, they're in P5. You've got Alpine a long way adrift, then Williams on 28 points. More points for AlphaTauri, gets them closer. And then it's Alfa Romeo and Haas find themselves down in 10th position. Well, my thanks to Jolyon Palmer for his expert commentary, to James Hinchcliffe as well, and it has been a weekend to savour, which it always seems to be. We say a massive thank you to Interlagos for putting on a show once again. You have been watching the Grand Prix of Sao Paulo. Do we have a show for you next time out in Las Vegas? Join us for something truly special when Formula One returns.